was home, went back, and then he'll take when I go back.
Oh, right there's somebody between us.
Hi, welcome back. Yeah, it's good to see you too. Weren't you on this side previously? Switched? I guess it's I just sat where my name was today. Yeah, right where we usually switch. I don't care.
Oh, you know what it must be, Jennifer? Whenever I do.
Know where Shaka is. I think Lando's my middle name.
Okay, so I was wondering which you would prefer. I mean, I know you said for Roll or Shaka, so you technically would be on the other side. But we both have hyphenated.
We do.
In the same area of the alphabet.
You're loving this weather. So nice. The time change came out just like right the right box.
So nice.
To drive here. I know.
Yeah, one way we're in light. I'm not driving both ways in the dark.
I was expecting it to be like 50 today, so for it to be like almost 70, I was like, this is out of it. It's like the baby on the Oh, nice.
Now you're gonna see tomorrow all the tulips are gonna start popping, and then we're gonna get a snowstorm. And
I
then
have a coworker in Atlanta.
oh no, I'm just saying, because usually you get like that March storm that.
I know, there is a March. Yep.
Good evening. The Amity Board of Education special meeting for March 9th, 2026 is called to order. Regular meeting. I guess we all make mistakes. Emergency exits are located on both sides of the back of the room. Please silence your cell phones. I remind members, staff, and guests to respect the business nature of our meeting. Comments may be made only when recognized, and applause is appropriate only in recognition of an individual or group honor or special presentation. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes, the Board of Education special meeting. February 27th, 2026 is on page 4 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Pat, Jen, second. Any comments? Any corrections? If not, can we call the roll?
Ms. Bradley? Ms. Todd Ingram?
Yes.
Ms. Shaka?
Yes.
Dr. Cronenfrock?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Abstain.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Abstain.
Dr. Oladelay?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
And Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion carries. Correspondence.
Pretty much all AI. There was nothing else but AI letters.
Okay. Just for clarification, and if anybody has any input of this, I don't know whether everyone on the board got everything that was sent to us. So if you're aware of that, I would like to find that information out. I know I received 11 emails that were from one person on this issue, and then a lot more from somebody else. I think over 20. So is that about the number?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And from what I can, everyone is going to the Board of Ed
Right.
address, so everybody should have received those. I didn't see any that were going to, say, an individual address where it would have gone to, say, Mr. Davis and not to anybody else.
I got them individually to my personal emails.
So that's a different topic for another day, but.
And as far as correspondence with board members go, the board members would appreciate if you kept your board business to our board emails. I also received something on a personal email, and board information is public record, and if you're mailing a board member on an issue regarding the school district or something about the school district, that should be part of public record. And there is exposure for board members if you get information on your private email about the district and respond. So if everybody keeps that in mind, you could be asked to get your private emails and be part of a requirement to make them public. All right, we go from correspondence to number 5, discussion and possible action recommending policy committee to develop a policy on artificial intelligence and prioritize it as a first order of business. All of you, this was not something that I put on the agenda. Well, I did, but it was done as a result of requests by several members of the board. All of us are aware that we have received quite a bit of information about AI and concerns. And very honestly, I think almost all the board members here do have concerns. Where we place the information about addressing those concerns is what this is all about. So we're going to ask that we focus on the fact that we have a motion here to develop a policy, which means we're sending it to the policy committee, and also reflect a little bit about what should be in that policy.
Was there a motion, Paul?
There, not yet.
All right. I'll make a motion to, that we recommend that the policy committee develop a policy on artificial intelligence and prioritize it as first order of business at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I should have done that first. All right, so,
So vote.
what I'd like to ask all the board members is, please try and focus on
Do we
the
vote?
motion. We vote.
Okay.
No, we vote, we're gonna vote after the
Well,
discussion.
this is discussion time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I try not to go into anything but your particular concerns and why you feel that should be part of what's the policy. And for many of our new members, policy is the way we express the guidelines for everything that goes on in the district. And it's the strongest statement that we can make in expressing how the board feels when we're running things. All right? So, Jen?
So for this policy, I think it's really important that there are 2 pieces within the policy. One piece is related to grading with AI. You're being told that there is no grading. The teachers are told there's no grading, but students are telling us that there is. So I think there needs to be a very clear piece of the policy that says that there will be no grading, and perhaps also a way for students to report if they feel that they are being graded. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of a miscommunication about grading versus assessment, and having that sort of policy where they can say, hey, I think I'm being graded, and then administration or a teacher can come back and say, no, that's not grading, that's assessment, and maybe that's a discussion that can happen with the student. And then the other piece I think needs to be in the policy is an opting out option for students. I think students should be allowed to opt out for moral reasons, for concerns about the environment, and data privacy reasons. And it's possible that students have the option to opt out, or parents have the option, or both. But I think it's something the policy committee should discuss. And then the last piece that I want to bring up is, I think that in the interim, while a policy is being created, we should have the option, or we should implement chatbots being paused, the use of chatbots in these tools being paused until a policy is created. I think that's the one area that is concerning and potentially dangerous, and maybe it's not part of the policy, maybe it's some sort of a disclaimer, but I'm concerned about the board and the school's liability of students using chatbots while we do not have a good policy in place.
Jen, can I ask you to clarify something? When you
Yeah.
talk about grading, are you talking about absolutely no AI to be used in any type of grading? Or are you talking about, I think my concern was that, are we talking about strictly saying we can't turn our grading system over to any type of artificial intelligence because the school district does not permit that to begin with? I think that's part of our guideline but it's not clear to many people, so that's, I agree, that has to be.
I think if it's a learning tool where there's an assessment portion of it, I think that's acceptable. I think that's very different from a learning tool where that assessment then is used to grade a student. If a teacher is looking at that and saying, you didn't perform well, therefore you get a bad grade, I think there's open for bias and concern with that. And while we don't have a policy, I think for right now, it should be a absolutely no, and then maybe once there's a policy, there can be more clarity with
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And you were very succinct and did a good job in time. Carol?
I just have a follow-up question for Jen. When you mentioned the opt-out portion that you're suggesting, is that students opting out of using it? Should it be incorporated in a classroom activity or a lesson? Or
Yeah,
I
so-
don't want any part of my, I don't know, whatever I'm turning in?
Yeah, so I don't think it's acceptable that students don't learn about AI and how to use it. But I think if they don't want to use the tool that's being used, they can be given another, there's lots of other tools that don't use AI, first of all. Or the teachers can have a different lesson for that, implement a different lesson plan for them. So that's sort of where I was thinking with the opt-out is either they get a different lesson or they use a different tool.
Thank you.
I guess for me, like, my question is, like, where does the line get drawn? Like, for example, if a student is opting out, like, does that mean that they also opt out of any assignments that the teacher created using the aid of AI? Like, for me, like, because I think that if you have a moral objection to, like, for example, the environmental use of AI, like, I think that some people might, for example, then be like, I don't want to have anything to, I don't want to be even complicit or associated with this tool. That, I think, poses questions about, like, where that line gets drawn and how that would affect how teachers can really feasibly use AI in the classroom.
I imagine that there will be a teacher policy and a student policy, so that might be something to talk about with the teacher policy. I don't know that we can opt out of lesson planning by AI, unfortunately, but maybe the policy for the teachers can have something in there of responsible or minimal or, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Megan?
two things in addition that I think should be included in a policy is disclosure. So a lot of example policies I saw online required disclosure, and to your point, there's likely going to be a educator piece and a student piece. So when you are using AI, you need to disclose what was used, how it was used. And then we should probably, given how rapidly evolving it is, have a time frame with which we will revisit the policy. I would think at least a minimum of an annual basis at this point, if not even like maybe each semester. And I lied, I had a third. One of the other things that I saw in a lot of the sample policies were sort of like levels. So a teacher might give an assignment and say like, this is a level 0 AI assignment, which means it cannot, and I'm gonna mix up maybe the direction that went, but at one extreme, it's AI cannot be used at all. At the other, and then it might be, can be used for idea generation, can be used for, there were varying degrees as to which, and at the outset of an assignment, a teacher would indicate, what level of assignment this was.
Very good, thank you. And just a second, Dr. Byers, a question which may explain something for everyone. How come we don't have a policy yet?
Primarily because policy is so fixed and AI is changing so quickly. So we do have student guidelines, which will probably be the basis of regulations that are student-facing. We have teacher guidelines that will be the basis of the regulation that are teacher-facing. But and we update them, we go to training 3 months later, we're like, oh, we need to add this or change this or, address this. So a big part of it has been that we have just been using very fluid guidelines so far because the policies which are fixed are just not responsive enough to to it, basically. The policies that I've looked at, even things like the levels, I can see those as part of regulations. And again, you know, you guys have looked at policy enough, it's a big broad umbrella. We're really going to address this through the regulations that go behind the policy, because, like I said, you know, 6 months after we go to one training, we go to a different one, and we realize we have to have these other things in place, or take some things out because they don't even apply anymore. So that's pretty much why.
For what it's worth, like, I talked to a friend who's a professor at a university, and I asked her, I was like, what is y'all's policy? And she goes, well, we don't have one yet because, so like, many universities are in the same boat.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
As somebody who teaches,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, Kathy.
So Paul, or Jen, I think it'd be helpful if we could just see those policies, because there's so much lack of clarity as to what we're doing today, and there would at least be a foundation for the policy committee, right?
So I think I
Because
did
a lot of the
include the
noise is
student-
lack of clarity.
Yeah, I think I have emailed those to the board, but I'll do it again.
Thank you.
So I think we have policies which are somewhat similar to.
I think we had definition, I don't think we had policy.
Right, we don't have policy, we do have. And for clarity, what I mailed to the board, I think it's almost a month and a half ago, that we need to have a statement about grading that's much clearer than what our guidelines are, because that kind of leaves it up to a lot of decision as to what really can be done.
And I think since then, we've edited what we have. So, yep.
Okay, great.
Can I?
Yes, Judy.
So there are a few things, like, obviously, I teach this to students. I teach AI, I teach how to use AI, I do research on what it does to inequality, what is bias, all of these issues that all the students are very concerned about. And so it's something that I spend a lot of time, and I've been doing it since the time ChatGPT has arrived on the scene. And so I want to say a few things. First, I think what we said about grading, I think it's clearly something that we should have clear guardrails against it. Like, meaning, again, not that for feedback it's obviously useful. Clearly, it's a tool for learning. But if something is entering PowerSchool, we do want somebody to do this. I think that is our policy. If there is a misunderstanding or there is a lack of communication, I think we should clearly clarify it. Students shouldn't have to go and fight about it, right? And so perhaps there is a system where, I think you referred to this as well, right? Like, maybe we have a system where if students have a complaint, let it go through a common system so that we can have school-wide intelligence and knowledge around what are the complaints that are there, so that everybody knows what's going on, rather than like something that feels a little bit more private, and then students are battling it. So those, I think, are definitely things that we can agree on. The other thing that was mentioned was about the issue of, like, let's have the opt-out problem, opt-out as an option. I worry a lot about that, because what's the dividing line for opt-out on any other issue that we are going to have? And, how do we decide? And how much knowledge do we have? How much this thing do we have? So that, to me, sounds like there are policy regulators at very many levels talking about it. CAPE might be one, there might be others who are thinking about it. We really have to follow something much higher than us, with our limited knowledge, limited experience, kind of trying to come up with a policy that I don't think is going to be that optimal for either the students or this thing. So my view is that it's a reasonable request. I don't know, and some of the arguments about climate, etc., are completely, not entirely correct. If you are going to use AI and it costs you 10 more than a Google search, it also saves you a lot of work. People don't go to consulting with doctors and things like that. So the full effect of climate has not really been accounted for. And so for us to take a moral posture on this at this point, where the information on this is very fluid, I don't think. This is something that I teach and I talk about, like, calculating and so on. So a lot of numbers out there, the instance of racial bias, that article that was shared with us, that sounds that headline was written in a way that was like, try to build emotion, right? But if you really looked at the data, if you looked at what the prompt was given, it was easy to see that the prompt actually almost got you the kinds of problems that you have. And so we are not experts, and I may consider myself an expert, but I don't think I'm an expert on policy and regulation and all of this stuff. But most of us are not. We should have some general idea, but we also need to have a lot of humility in what we think we can do about this. And so I come to this as, not in an adversarial way, like, I don't want the students to feel like, we are not responding. I would like us to be collaborative, that the community, the teachers, and the board, everyone looks at it in a very reasonable way and try to do what is best for our students. And, and it is not at all obvious that the solutions that are proposed are actually good for our students. So I just wanted to say that, like, the opt-out stuff is much more tricky. And I want to say that, like, I like the fact that the school has an AI council. Very few people have the humility and the willingness to kind of try to learn and understand what is leading edge technology. The fact that our teachers are willing to learn, our students are willing to learn, our administrators, they're not getting everything right. And we should not believe that we are getting everything right. We should be willing to learn, but we should be willing to continue to learn. So this is something I'm very passionate about because I teach this all the time. I tell the students what is all the problems. I list out. I'm going and talking about AI in education. I go to the social and public health schools and lecture about how AI causes inequality. I do all of that every month. And yet I don't think the solutions that are being proposed is right. So sorry for the long speech and the rant.
Thank you. Dana?
I agree with what everyone said and what everyone's bringing. We've heard from the students, and I'd love to hear what a teacher's feelings are on this, because I think their feelings are very important, because whether we like it or not, AI is kind of like the calculator and the computer. We're not going to be able to fight it and not embrace it. It's coming, it's here. We couldn't fight the computer. I mean, look where we are now. Like, we really had to embrace it. And I'm probably the least, I'm not embracing AI at all, but I'm gonna have to because it's here. So I think I'd love to hear from the teacher's point of view. We know what the students' point of view are. They've told us everything. I think all these comments really should be brought into the policy, and I think policy really has to work on a really good policy that is workable, that we can go back to every year. But I'd love to hear what the teachers have to say because they're in this.
Okay, Donna?
I was going to say, I respect everyone's opinion and time and the students bringing it to the board's attention. I think that we need to seriously consider opt-out. I believe that AI is a tool, and it's a flawed tool, from hallucinations to inappropriate feedback to there's many risks, and I think that's something that you should definitely look at with caution, just like social media. You don't want to be 10 years down the line and, oh no, what did we do? So I think we need to maybe, instead of jumping in the pool, maybe dipping our toe in first. And definitely setting up guardrails and a code of ethics that is acceptable to all users. And opting out, I think, definitely should stay in the policy.
Thank you. Carol?
So just want to say that I agree with a few of the points that have been made, and particularly the one that Sudhir made about us approaching this with humility. So my stance may be a little bit different as it concerns like this student population. So, I too teach at the collegiate level, and I'll say that policies are just not quite there anywhere, at least not that I've seen. So I don't think that we should have any idea that we're going to look to some model policy anywhere. I haven't seen a model policy anywhere. I think it's going to come down to what we decide we want for our students. I do have a concern about AI is not going anywhere, right? AI has been around forever. Adaptive testing, the SAT, I mean, that's AI, right? Like, we've been doing that for forever. There are many examples of how AI is used that we don't think about because it wasn't ChatGPT. But I'm concerned about the use of AI and no guardrails for this particular age group. Because it's different. When I'm teaching my college students and I'm like, are you using AI? And they have to have a disclosure, I use AI for blah, 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 blah. they've been to college, right? They have a degree. Like, these kids are learning. Like, this is like a real formative learning time for students. So that'll be my concern. And I'll tell you that I'm gonna bring these concerns to policy as I'm on the committee, but my concern is like the age group and the appropriateness and, where do we, and I'm not saying this to say like, oh, we can't use it at all, but like, I'll tell you, I'm gonna be a little bit more conservative about this because of the age of our students.
Are there, finish up.
Yep, I think related to that, a lot of times, as a more wealthy school district, we are on the cutting edge. And I think in a lot of ways, that's phenomenal. But the downside of that can sometimes be that the students are the guinea pigs. And I think that with AI, that's a little bit of what's happening, where we have some tools that we're not paying for, that are free versions. Some teachers are using something, some teachers are using others. Some teachers are using one version and another version. It's a little bit too quick with our students then being the ones that it's tested on. So that's my concern when you're talking about the age group, is that we want to be on the cutting edge, but with these tools that are not fully tested, it makes me very nervous, so.
So one more thing, Paul,
Okay.
I'd like to just understand the terms of use too. When we talk about it's free, but where is the student data going? Is it being used? I mean, nothing's ever free.
Oh, okay, so
Right, so to that, I'm very conservative with AI as well. I really don't support it for grading. I don't really support it for feedback either. I think that it really needs to be reined in.
well, unfortunately.
Well, I'm on
it's-
policy
no,
as well.
Right. Unfortunately, AI is a result of human thought, and none of us are perfect, so we're gonna do just what we do. We pass it on to AI, and it's not perfect. And I've yet to hear of a platform that is perfect. They all have problems. So going out and buying different software and expecting a different result is not an easy thing to do. Our software, and this was an issue for our students, is vetted very carefully. We get information and recommendations from the state, and that's another thing we haven't even put in thought into, is we're going to have coming down from the state statutes about what we have to do with AI. The Department of Education will send down information about regulations, and we may see next year coming down that we have to give our students a half a credit of work in AI education. So we've got a lot of stuff to do, and I think we're good at finishing this off now. I appreciate all the comments, great comments, and I wish the chair and the rest of the policy committee very good luck. And I want to say something that was a concern to some of our students. Policy is very important to this school district. And when we say we're going to develop a policy, it means that we are going to work on it extremely hard, and we're not going to put things in a closet and say, okay, that's our policy. So I want to assure the students that when we put it to policy, we work on it and make sure it's being used for the school district to the best of our ability.
So Paul, can I just clarify one thing?
Yes.
So, and maybe some of us are aware of this, but not all of us. I think one of the things that is happening as AI evolves rapidly is there's not just like, this is AI software and
Right.
this is not.
Right.
What we're seeing happen a lot, for example, is like in digital media, the kids use Canva. Canva used to just be this photo editing and like graphic design software. Now it has an AI feature that helps you generate AI images, right? Like even in our own Microsoft interface, there's now, one click for Copilot. So it's not as simple as saying like, these are AI things and these are not. Everything is now integrated, so we have to be aware of that.
Okay, can we vote on the motion to send it as stated to policy?
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Cloud Ingram?
Yes.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yes.
Dr. Kruna-Karan?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Olajalek?
Yes.
Ms. Rabuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schleich? Nope, sorry. Nope. Ms. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a great discussion, and next we want to hear some public comment. So if anyone has public comment, please step up. And before you do that, I think most of us are aware of the rules and requirements. Giving you 3 minutes, please make sure you don't say anything derogatory about anybody, and just give us the information as you'd like us to hear it.
Got it. Liam Roselle, Bethany. Good evening. So AI has been in education for a really long time, but generative AI, the AI that steals content from working artists, racially discriminates against our students, sells the data of our students against federal law, and gambles with my transcript, and that 161 students entirely oppose is brand new. If you can't find a vendor that fits the perfect needs of the students, then you don't buy the product. You know very well from all my emails that AI grading systems disproportionately penalize Asian American students, Jewish students, and then black students in that order. These are protected classes. The ETS, the organization that administers the SAT, analyzed 13,000 essays and found that GPT 4.0, the exact model that's powering Class Companion that we use, penalizes Asian American students more than any other group by a wide margin that researchers couldn't explain, and they called it a huge black box. This isn't like the calculator or the computer, because the calculator didn't racially discriminate against Asian students. And then we pay $7,500 for a ChatGPT Enterprise subscription for 25 administrator seats that the district says they use to write communications, draft emails, presentations. These are people with graduate degrees, like doctorates in education. And if they can't write an email, then what are we pay them $2.4 million every year in the budget. What are we paying them so much for if they can't write an email without ChatGPT? And we said last meeting that what we want is regulation on behalf of the hundreds of students who co-signed this movement that are all written on the back of my hoodie. We want it to be defunded. She's wholly and categorically wrong. Not opting out, because why? Because it's too woke? Because, I mean, we said that WebMD was climate conscionable because it saves us a doctor's trip. What are we scared of? Why are we in such a rush? Why are we so adamant about this staying in policy? We don't want it in policy. This isn't some activism civics project that a bunch of students are taking up. Full transparency, I can use my phone in like all of my senior classes. That's a policy. It's not followed. Every student sitting over here has at least one video of themselves in the school. That's a policy that's not being followed and isn't enforced. It doesn't matter if there's a policy that teachers have guidance. It's happening. We want the board to vote no on funding this, and that's what we've been asking for since February 10th. And I know you've seen my emails because y'all saw it. We have the names of 161 students who are asking this board to defund with a capital D. We can learn about AI with the great free programs. You have 28 days of students refusing to be quiet about something that matters, and now the only question is whether this board does too. Those are my comments. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Thank you.
State your first name.
Okay, so let's pull this up. Eitan Homeland, Woodbridge. So good evening. What I want to talk about today is the privacy policy of Magic School AI and why I'm truly against it. So first part is under the mergers, acquisitions, and business transfers, and I'm just going to read to you what it says, and I quote, "We may share your information, including personal information, with affiliates such as parent companies, subsidiaries, joint venture partners, and other companies that we control that are under common control with us, in which case we will require those companies to agree to use your personal information in a way that's consistent with Magical AI's data protection and privacy policies." Now first, I have two questions. We as students never sign anything to give our data away. All we do is type in our name in Magic School. So do I not agree with this. Other students agreeing to this, and so why are they able to take our data if all we're doing is put in our name? We never signed a legal contract. And my second company is, are you guys able to tell me which companies, what data, what info about me is being given away? Like, can you tell me where this is actually going? And if I don't comply with this on an AI assignment, what that's going to show in the gradebook is not that, oh, he's standing up to protect his own data. No, it's going to show that I'm getting a 0 on this assignment. The next part is in its privacy policy and how it says to use your personal information. We may use your personal, we may use this de-aggregated, de-identified, and or anonymized data to share with third parties for our lawful business purposes. including to analyze and improve service with promote our business. We do not attempt to re-identify it and do not share identifying our unrelated commercial purposes. Now, it says they do not attempt to re-identify it, which what that really is saying is they can't identify the data. So we are right now spending $11,000 from what I can see from the reports on Magic School AI, which right now, from what I've studied so far, they can do a lot of stuff with our data, and they can also match our data back up to who we are when it's supposedly anonymous. Now again, this leads me to two questions I stated before, and now another question is, if they can re-identify our data when we do not attempt to re-identify or share like that, they said, so what does it say about my anonymous data being retraced to me? And so, I know we've had other data breaches such as with Power School and other things like that. Now, I know that those have been hard for us to handle, and if we are going to keep it consistently, all it's going to do is invite in new threats. And I really don't want us to be imposing to other new threats. Now, what does this truly mean, though? This means our school district, which is fighting over a bunch of other issues, and now throwing AI to take our data. Our school is more susceptible to a data breach. Our teachers will not be teaching as much. They will not be getting as much student hand-on feedback now. And I know as a student, and the other 160 students who signed this petition do not want that. And from my experience, even teachers do not want that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have another person?
Farzal Salati.
Thank you.
Farzal Salati, Woodbridge. I'm 18 years old. I pay taxes. Right now I work, I pay into the system. And tonight I want to talk about what this system did with that money without telling any of us. The district said that it spent $11,000 on AI. That number went to the budget document and went to the student newsletter. It was the official answer every time someone asked, but it was wrong. A classmate of mine filed a Freedom of Information, a Freedom of Information request, and receipts came in at $19,216.51. 5 products. 2 of them routed through the staff development budget instead of the technology budget, which meant they did not show up where anyone was looking. All of it signed by the Director of Finance and the Superintendent. Nobody volunteered that information. It took a 17-year-old in a public records form to find it. I want to talk about one line specifically. The district spent $7,416.53 on a ChatGPT Enterprise subscription for 19 administrator seats. Based on the district's own communications to students, it is used to draft emails and presentations. These are adults with graduate degrees. Their salaries run into the millions collectively, and we are paying extra on top of that for software to write their PowerPoints. At the same time, the budget proudly announces $2 million in savings over 10 years, like that is something to celebrate. And then it quietly spends $19,000 on AI tools spread across enough budget categories that nobody will notice unless they're specifically looking. I was looking, my classmate was looking, we are teenagers, and we found this because we asked, which raises a serious question about who else was supposed to be asking and wasn't. This board manages $58 million of the public money. The people in this room tonight are the public. We are not asking much, we're asking for a budget that says what it means. A district that spends what it says, and a board that does not need an FOI, a FOIA request, from a high school senior to tell the community a real number. That's a pretty low bar, and I hope you clear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Theodore Anderson, Woodbridge. A good way to get a tangible measure of whether or not something in general is worth it is seeing if the benefits can be guaranteed to outweigh the worst case scenario. So far, the benefits that have been explained to us to justify the current use of artificial intelligence at Amity are primarily based on efficiency. Teachers have a lot on their plates, and in a world where AI works perfectly with no risks, maybe it could help them get things like grading, communications, and lesson planning done faster. There are many problems with this way of thinking, but the biggest one I can think of is that AI does not, in practice, work perfectly. Many students have already raised concerns about their work being graded incorrectly by AI, and when checked by a real person, the grades did end up needing to be adjusted. AI is simply not flawless, and after seeing these instances in real time, I don't see how anyone here could say in good conscience that this is not the case. Artificial intelligence being used in the ways that it has been here at school needs far more regulation and supervised trial before it can continue. This is not to push this cause to the policy committee, nor is it to put the blame on teachers for using AI. It is mainly to request that the current usage of these programs is, at the very least, put on hold and not funded as planned until restrictions are in place, and you all can give us an honest guarantee that no issues like the ones we've been seeing will keep showing up. If teachers already aren't following the policies against AI grading, why are our concerns being pushed to a policy committee that, if the budget passes with continued funding for AI, would only be able to create more restrictions after these platforms are paid for again? This is an issue that needs to be further deliberated on and readdressed, given what has already been happening with misuse. The inconsistency of AI grading has been observed during the time in which it has been in use at AI, and that alone should be enough to warrant a serious reconsideration of if this is worth it by every member of the board before more money is put towards these programs. This should not be funded prior to a sufficient policy being created. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Thank you all.
We have one more.
I'm not a student, which you can tell because I wrote something on the computer and printed it on a piece of paper. So I'm Robert Lim, 956 Corncob Lane in Orange. And I want to kind of continue or give my thoughts on the conversation about surplus from the York meeting last time, which I think is really a conversation about risk, because I believe the surplus comes from essentially very conservative budgeting practices, which are practiced in many municipalities, including the town of Orange, such as zero-based budgeting. So fundamentally for me, they cannot be eliminated, the surplus cannot be eliminated unless you change the budgeting practices, which I think people understand, but I just want to kind of set that out there. So comparing in terms of surpluses from the board perspective, from a 4-year average, I came up with 3.81 or so. 2% goes to CNR, or the formerly known as CNR account. And for the town of Orange, just looking at the audit reports for the town itself, that's averages 3 years, because I don't have access to the most recent one, but 3.1%. So it's actually pretty similar. The town also designates money to capital expenses every year. So I thought it was interesting, Mr. Young, when you talked about, well, if we adjust our budgeting practices, or however you framed it, the towns would gladly give support the district if they ran short of money, because that's what they would prefer in exchange for having less of a surplus. And I apologize if I'm not getting that exactly right. But it's on YouTube, everybody can see it. So to me, this is kind of a classic risk management conversation. It's the risk of, well, if you maintain a little bit of surplus as it is, what's the risks associated with that? Versus what are the risks if, things don't go away and the district does run short of funds. I don't think the conversation with the towns would be that straightforward, just my opinion. And I think my concern is that this district has been working for like 25 years to restore confidence of the communities because of financial mismanagement. And I think probably if, funds get tight, you'd probably draw on the CNR account because you can now use it for operational expenses. But that itself, I think, to me, doesn't show like a good financial discipline. So I do think there might be a reputational loss there. And in terms of the surplus, well, I guess it's up to everybody to determine, but I think a helpful conversation for the board would be, what is your collective tolerable risk or appetite for surplus? Like what level of surplus would you stand? And how does that relate to the board's position on risk? So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Good timing. Any other public comment? Okay, if not, we move on to number 7, excuse me. Middle school schedule update. Dr. Myers, Dr. Carlson.
So before we get to our budget discussion, I did want, Mr. Davis had asked me to talk a little bit about the work that Dr. Carlson, Dr. Tracy, and Mrs. Burke have all been doing in trying to address concerns around the middle school schedule, but at the same time accomplish some of the goals, which even in our last meeting, I heard the board saying they were things that you would like to see if we can possibly achieve it. So this is where we are at this point. We have revisited the schedule and have been able to develop a schedule that's going to maintain the current 42-minute class period, having heard there was some concerns around those longer class periods. And it still has an 8-period schedule. So the worries that students would forget things if they missed a class for one day out of the 4, we can sort of alleviate those 2 concerns. So it's essentially going to look somewhat similar to the current schedule that we have, but with a few pretty significant changes. The first is the option to offer a choice in world language. We haven't really changed from this spot. It would still require us to take world language off of the team. 8th grade students, at least for this year, would be able to pick a preference between Chinese and Spanish. 7th grade students, we would look to have a preference between French, Chinese, and Spanish, and then beginning the following year, all students, 7th and 8th grade, would have that opportunity of taking French, Chinese, or Spanish. In terms of Mrs. Rabuse's question around the numbers and the impact if kids are no longer taking Spanish, we were able to get some idea of what kids would prefer. We had sent out surveys to both incoming 7th graders and our current 7th graders as they go on into next year. We don't have 100% return, but we have enough answers that we can take those numbers and project them out. So basically, about 50 kids are interested in French at both of the middle schools as a first choice. About 25-ish kids would choose Chinese, and then the kids who are currently in Chinese and Spanish who would be going into 8th grade, around 30-ish or so students would like to take Chinese as their sole language. And then what we were able to do is kind of extrapolate what the Spanish enrollment would be. Very easy to do with 8th grade because we know how many kids are currently taking Spanish as 7th graders. If we take out the 44 students across both schools, but a class of 22 kids from Chinese in each school, you can see that in 8th grade next year we have about 140 students who would be taking Spanish. In 7th grade, we would actually remove 44 students from the Spanish enrollment. And so all we did was use the projections of students currently in 6th grade. We subtracted 44, and that gave us our approximate enrollment for Spanish. What this means in terms of teaching and average class sizes, if we maintain the 8 Spanish teachers that we currently have, the 1 Chinese teacher that we have, and added a French teacher, the average class sizes would have been around 14 and 15 respectively at the 2 schools. If, however, we do a reduction in force and we lose 1 Spanish teacher and replace them with a French teacher, in other words, without adding a teacher, then the average class sizes are around 17 and 18 respectively in each schools. So we certainly can achieve the world language goal if the board supports a reduction in force in our Spanish teachers. So again, the bottom sort of summarizes it. You would do a RIF of 1 Spanish teacher, you would add 1 French teacher. The French and Mandarin teachers would be shared between the 2 schools, sort of picture if they go to one school in the morning, the other school in the afternoon. We would also have to share a Spanish teacher between the 2 schools because we would have 7 and that's an odd number, and so we need to have 3 and 3 and then a person who's traveling. And if for some reason we are sort of underestimating our Spanish enrollment, we do have enough space at the high school where we could use high school teachers to supplement Spanish classes at the middle school and provide instruction probably for 1 period a day. So in other words, we can accomplish the world language goals without any additional teacher if we do the reduction in force of Spanish.
Can I ask one question on the slide before?
Yeah.
You said they're projected preferences. How many responses did you actually get out of the incoming seventh graders?
Out of incoming seventh graders, in Orange, it's 47%, and at Bethany, it was 31. And that was as of this morning, so again, I just used those numbers and then kind of extrapolated out where I think their preferences are. That's why I think it's important that that I do mention that we would have Spanish teachers available potentially from the high school if my projections.
I mean, I just wonder if, because a lot of times when you have people respond to surveys, they're the ones who are most interested in whatever the change is, so you may be overly weighting, like if you're extending whatever that ratio is to everybody, you may be over accounting.
And remember, I mean, out of the French in grade 7, only 22 kids are going to get that preference. So even if we are overextending it, we're still not meeting all of those requests. There would only be 22 students in Chinese in grade 7 and only 22 students in Chinese in grade 8. So the students are, not every kid is going to get their first preference.
I thought you said it was 44, it was 22 in each class.
22 plus 22 is 44, French and Spanish in 7th grade.
Thank you for the math lesson.
Right.
Secondly, I thought that what you said was you were taking a French teacher and having 2 classes at each middle school at 22 each, therefore 44 in each school.
So, no, because then we wouldn't be able to extend it the next year into 8th grade.
So we're gonna hire a French teacher to teach 1 class in each middle school.
They're gonna teach 2 classes in each middle school so that they have a full teaching load. But those 2 classes will be smaller in year 1 so that it can allow for the growth going into year 2.
So we're gonna have them teach 2 classes at 11 students each in 1 middle school and then in the other middle school.
Yes.
So they're gonna have a whole load of 44 kids for the entire academic year.
For 1 year, yes.
Why would you, if there's that much interest, why would you not allow them to teach 2 full sections?
Because then the following year, unless the board is willing to support it, you would then need to hire a second French teacher. Because
you would eliminate another language teacher that the children are not supporting anymore by their choice.
Right.
So
But
we can
that also
certainly
might
do
be-
that. I think we just have to be aware of the consequences that would come in the 27-28
Well, this is the
budget.
consequence
I would
from
love to
offering
hire another
choice.
language teacher at that point.
Right, the other thing is that students may try French and decide they don't want to take it the next year, and they might switch a language, so that's always possible as well.
And we may also have another year, a year from now, have a very low number of students that want to take French. So
Right.
the plan that she's presenting is the most prudent. I think my concern is looking at the reduction in force and looking at how many Spanish teachers do we have in this district, and how many do we have any that are anywhere near retirement age? Because as someone who's been an educator who's gotten a pink slip, I don't want to do that to somebody if we don't have to.
Right.
And especially when we getting rid of positions in a time when it is so hard to find teachers. And that for me is a huge concern.
So I can't make a prediction of staff turnover, but we certainly experience it almost all the time. And the reduction in force is truly a reduction in your number of Spanish teachers. I don't know if it's actually translating to a current employee. If I can, so I think that's the cagiest way I can answer that. It's not a direct correlation that somebody is getting a pink slip.
Dr. Myers, has the union heard of this possibility?
Of the reduction in force? Yes. I did make the union president aware of that.
What about the teachers?
That's the union.
No, the teachers themselves, not the union president. So the teachers all know that the Spanish teachers? The Spanish teachers all know that the
person who
decision.
would be impacted by this has been notified.
The teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
So how would the impact be? I know you don't want to go further, but what exactly are we talking about?
I mean, it can play out any number of ways. We could have somebody retire, and then we would do an involuntary transfer of the least senior person to that vacancy. We could have somebody resign. And again, it would be that same process. We could have somebody who miraculously is working on a dual certification in French that I can then involuntary transfer to cover the French position. So there are a couple different ways that that can play out. I just don't have an answer for us right now because I can say as of today, I do not have any retirements in amongst our Spanish teachers. But it's still pretty early in the year before people make those decisions.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, but I do want to point out sort of that last bullet point, that ability to access the high school teachers for Spanish. I think this is probably one of the biggest weaknesses we have with our schedule. We are too small of a district that we can't share teachers between the high school and the middle school. It's just not an efficient use of our resources. So we would take the middle school schedule and create, the periods would still change, but we definitely really want it aligned to a 4-day rotation and ABCD that's matched up with the ABCD for the high school. So when we do have opportunities to share teachers, we can do that much more easily. And I do think that's a much more efficient way of using our staff. So we would change the schedule so that we would have a 4-day rotation. The other piece is implementing the rotating win period. So again, it's going to still be 42 minutes, but unlike current academic success, that's just during period 8, each team would have it at a different point during the day. We just think the benefits for the intervention services are just too great to sort of have that one fixed period at a certain point for the entire school. It will also, again, help us with providing our developmental counseling lessons, the work we do around Portrait of the Graduate, special programming without having to constantly change the schedule, and then, like I said, intervention support, EL services, and special education services. So those two pieces sort of go with that 4-day rotation. PE is the biggest piece of the puzzle with the middle school schedule. So we really kind of have two choices. The first is our current structure where we offer music opposite PE. And just sort of an explanation for why this works, but then also the limitation to it. PE is a year-long course. It's offered every other day, and contractually, a PE class can have up to 35 students in it. Music is the only other year-long course that we have that's offered every other day. And contractually, there is no class maximum for our music ensembles. So if we continue to offer PE with music opposite it, it works from sort of a numbers standpoint, it works from contract alignment, but it does mean that every student would have to take one of the ensembles, band, chorus, or strings. Which is one of the big pieces of feedback we've received that people wished was different in our schedule, is that kids weren't forced into taking music. And then the other thing, I remember some of the concerns that came from the teacher's perspective when we were looking at those longer class periods was behavioral issues. I will say that if you don't play an instrument, you end up having to take chorus. And if you don't want to be in a chorus class, sometimes your behaviors are not always your best choices. So the sort of forced music does kind of create some of those behavioral challenges that we would hopefully want to avoid. And I think that's good for the kids who want to be in a chorus class, and it's good for the kids who don't want to be in the chorus class. So then the other option is to look at health opposite PE. It currently isn't. Health is taught as part of the life arts rotation, so it's pulled out. In this case, we would look at offering PE for about 3/4 of the school year. How it's offered is going to depend on the board's support for staffing. Again, PE still has a maximum class size of 35. Health would be offered for 1/4 of the time. Again, how it's going to look is going to be dependent on staffing, but because it's a class, it's got a cap size of 22 students. So it's a numbers challenge when we offer health opposite PE. because we actually become limited by the class size for health. So we looked at two options. We went through everything. If we add 2 additional PE teachers, health PE teachers, 1 in each school, we would have 88 students at a time assigned to 4 teachers. PE classes would be around 22 or no more. Health classes would be no more than 22 students per contract. We would still be able to have separate 7th grade PE classes and 8th grade PE classes. And we would do PE 3 out of the 4 days of the rotation and health 1 day out of the rotation. So PE would be a year long, as would health. Just PE would meet 3 days and health would meet 1 day over the course of the year. If we opt not to add the additional PE teachers, we can still do this. We would have 88 students assigned to 3 teachers each period. The PE class sizes would be 33. So that takes care of 66 of your kids. They would have to be combined 7th and 8th, maybe not every single period of the day, but at least some of them would be combined 7, 8. The health classes would be 22 students, and what we would do is we would essentially pull off 22 students and put them into health for 1 quarter, and the remaining 66 would be in PE. And then the next quarter, we would pull off a different set of 22 students for health, and then all the rest of the kids would be in PE. So it would run a little bit differently. You'd still have more PE. You'd still have about the same amount of health. It would just be structured differently from the 3 on and then 1 health in a 4-day cycle. So then another benefit or another side to this is that if you are pulling health and putting it opposite PE, you open up more blocks for electives, for choices for kids. So that was another thing that we have sort of heard, is that students, it'd be nice if students could have more choices. We would have options for year-long electives, because this is if music is an opposite PE, so our music ensembles could still be year-long. And then we would have semester electives, which could also be your music ensembles, but then that would include the art, the digital media, general music, and then our CTE classes. We still would look at expanding those elective choices for 8th grade students. So you can see we sort of took the technology and broke it, at least for right now, into architecture and robotics. Those are 2 of the big sort of subsets of our CTE courses. So now kids can choose one of those, both of those, and we would look to do the same with art and digital media going forward. In terms of where we are, and again, these are just projections, and I don't know that first choice really matters because kids are gonna have to make 3 choices or 4 choices anyway. So this is probably not the best, it's not telling you the whole picture. I think what is what is sort of I draw out of this is that the first choices are kind of evenly distributed amongst the 4 possible life arts areas. Obviously, we have many more kids who would pick band or chorus as their music ensemble over strings. But I think there's, it's showing us there's some balance. And we do have this data sort of going down into 2nd choice, 3rd choice, 4th choice. It's just a lot to sort of try to capture in a slide neatly. And then the 8th grade data, again, we sort of see kind of that distribution across most of the courses, a little bit more, I guess, picky for some of the classes at the middle school. And then again, you see kind of that same distribution for the music ensembles with chorus and strings and not, chorus and band and not strings. So overall, the outcome of what we did for the past 2 weeks is we still allow for 3 world language choices. We still are able to increase the option of electives and to give students choice. The schedule will still maintain a team model amongst the math, social studies, science, and English teacher. We'll still have advisory built in as part of that schedule. We would rotate the WIN so that we are in a better position to provide interventions and support. It increases PE time if we are able to add those additional teachers, or at least look at putting health opposite PE. It maintains the 42-minute instructional period, and it aligns to the high school schedule so that we can more efficiently use our resources. The two big things that the other schedule did that this one doesn't do is we do not see an increase in academic time. We also don't see a decrease, it just stays the same. And we certainly haven't decreased the transitions of kids going from class to class, that also remains the same. But we were able to accomplish many of the goals with it, just not all of them.
So, Jen, whatever happened to Shape Up? As an elective at the middle school 2 years ago, as a Shape Up, there was an elective, it was like a gym class.
I'm gonna defer to my middle school principals, because I have no idea.
And so when the teachers had to go and work on team, so then they filled up their 5 classes. That was to be their 5th class. So all the life arts teachers had those electives as their 5th class. Right now they teach 5 classes because the class size is 22. So when the class size was 28, they could have more kids. We had 4 sections of rounds and 1 section of electives. Now the class size is 22, and so the students, in order to provide for all the students, their 5th classes on the team rather than an elective.
So what happened to Shape Up?
That was the elective, that was that
That was
8th period. It happened during academic success class, and it was the 5th class for all those life arts teachers.
Okay.
Now they don't need that 5th class because they already have 5. They can't teach 6 by contract.
Okay, so they can teach up to 5 classes, which is what we discussed last time. So, just so I understand, does this mean that the students will have art every single day if they have an elective?
They would have it every other day for a semester, and then there would be another elective. So they would have it on A and C days, and then B and D day would be a different elective.
Can you go back to the slide that had the, keep going. So.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
So am I reading this right, that like if you took, like would you take choir, band and strings and then choose something that goes opposite that?
You could. So again, this is where the choice, the flexibility comes in. So I could take choir for an entire year.
In 2
And then
semester.
opposite, first semester I could have art, second semester I could have digital media.
Or you could take 4.
Or I could take 4, or I could be a music kid and take choir and band for the whole year.
Okay.
So that's where we get a type of flexibility that we really don't have in our current schedule.
So the feedback we had was that the teachers weren't interested in seeing, they wanted to see their kids every day. So what you're proposing is an every other day.
For the elective areas, the team and the world language will see them every day.
But not art.
But again, right now, band and chorus and strings don't see their students every day. So half of the elective areas are already structured that way. So now all the elective areas will be structured that way.
And have we gotten teacher feedback on that?
At this point, no. And again, the union knew that we were pulling this together pretty quickly. But I mean, for 3/4 of the staff, nothing about this schedule is any different than the current schedule that they have.
Jen, how long was the rotation before? You said this is a 4-day rotation and it's gonna mirror the high school schedule. What, can you remind me what it was?
Right now, we
before
have a
the-
6-day rotation, and the high school has a 4-day rotation. So our days never line up.
And nobody knows why. We tried to figure that out. No one knows why we have EF day. Figure it out.
So what will be the impact of changing to a 4-day versus a 6?
So if I have a teacher, so like one of the things that's most common for us is we have a strings teacher here who often does not have enough sections of strings to create for a full day. So she will go to one of the middle schools for one of her instructional periods. We are able to kind of piece it together for her because whoever she's going to doesn't necessarily offer strings every day or every other day, just on the days when she's able to get there and it happens to line up. What it will help us do is we could say, okay, at the end of the day, when the high school is having its last 2 periods, you are going to go to Orange on A and C days and Bethany on B and D days, and you're going to teach their strings classes. We could do the same with world language teachers, we could do the same with, I mean, most of our CTE classes fill up, but if we have these options where teachers do not have a full course load here at the high school, we could actually use them at the middle school to provide elective offerings, and we can't do that right now.
So what is the reason that we want to change, that you want to change the middle school schedule? Other than language choice?
I'm sorry, can you?
What is the reason we want to change the middle school schedule?
I think it's been, the biggest piece of feedback has been that limiting options available for students that I think we see most notably through the language choice, having to double up in the Spanish and the Mandarin, having to take a music class, and then not having, and then the electives, like you just said, the stand up, step up.
Shape
We
up.
used to have
Shape up,
those,
shape
and
up.
we don't have those choices anymore. And so bringing those electives back that we had 2 or 3 years ago. Those were driving factors. I think we discovered in this process that the rotation of the WIN is actually going to be very helpful for us. So I think that was an added benefit that we kind of came to along the way.
Now, is that a combination of the academic success and advisory?
No, it's really just it's a repurposing of academic success, because we can use that period now to do some of the things where we run special schedules, like POG activities or developmental counseling lessons.
So advisory will stay?
Advisory stays as part of the schedule, yes.
And what is the reason we wouldn't offer language choice without the addition of French, not requiring a reduction in force, to actually get a feel for what people or what students will take and how this will look, to give our teachers preparation that maybe instead of feeling like it's sort of rushed and we're bringing it together in 2 weeks, offering only Spanish and Mandarin to sort of take it forward?
I mean, we certainly could, but I don't think that that's actually offering choice. And I guess my question would be, when would we do a reduction in force?
How about when there's a reduction in force naturally?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've written down here, is that why not hold that off until we have something that changes? Because we know that bilingual education, when we look at the state website, it's the first area listed as an area of shortage. So we're gonna roll the dice that we're gonna get rid of somebody, and then we're gonna try to replace them, which we may or may not be able to do. And then, did we burn that bridge with somebody if we needed to get them back? And so for me, I would just feel more comfortable with the idea of a natural. We're choosing to make this change now.
And if I were to say it can occur naturally, but not really say much more because I really can't.
If it occurs naturally, I just, as an educator, my feeling is, I want these things to occur naturally.
Yeah, I would like to, so right now, there isn't really language choice. There is no language choice at all. But if you get somebody a choice between Spanish and Mandarin, that's a choice. And we already have those teachers, and you will see what will happen. Will you get more kids? You might get more kids who want to take Mandarin because they don't have to take 2 languages.
Well, and again, that's where these projection numbers come from. We ask them to give us their choice.
Yes,
So
31% response rate.
And honestly, what we really saw was that every kid who's currently taking Mandarin as 7th graders seemed to want to continue that into 8th grade. Whereas there was one student who picked Spanish over Mandarin as their choice. So it seems that once they start in 7th grade, they wanted to continue to 8th grade.
Jen, am I understanding this schedule correctly, that years ahead, you might be able to offer additional elective options because the schedule at the high school and middle schools are aligned? Not to say, okay.
Yes, we could.
It opens up the possibility to do that.
Yes. And even just with the idea of the electives, I mean, the reason why we sort of expanded architecture and robotics out of CTE is because we had those as electives 3 years ago, and they were fairly well crafted classes, that it didn't take us a lot to add those for next year. We would look to add, to look at digital media and to see if it becomes a broadcast journalism and a photography elective, because those are two big areas that occur within digital media. Or if the students have another area of preference coming out of there. We could look at art, and instead of just having it big blanket art, you might be able to split it into 2D and 3D art. So now we have two different, so I think there is a potential both pulling staff from the high school if they're available, but then also just working within the structures we have to bring back the electives that we used to offer during period 8 that we don't anymore.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate that you heard a lot of our feedback in terms of, you know, what concerns were, and I feel like this has gone a long way to accomplishing the objectives without, while also respecting a lot of the concerns that I think were raised. 2 points of feedback that I've heard kind of within all of this, from students and also staff is, I do think there's concern among life arts teachers that by having this alternating day schedule, they will potentially carry over the 125 students at a time limit. I think that is a source of concern and stress for them. The other thing I've heard from students is on the rotating win period, by not having it at the end of the day. A lot of kids, and I won't speak for all kids, I know my kids use it a lot because they know as soon as I pick them up, they're off to dance and baseball and softball, so like they get their work done. So when it's not at the end of the day, you know, what happens when I have win first period and then I get homework all the rest of the day and I don't, and the next day I have it at the end of the, you know, you have like that mismatch. There's also teachers that don't post assignments until last period, so maybe that needs to change if it's moving around, so just.
So, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think, so the drastic rotation that we have right now where a 7th period class can occur at the start of the day, because we're gonna have to have some alignment to the high school, which has a much more sort of fixed periods through the day, while we will still have rotation, it won't be quite as dramatic.
Okay.
So if I knew that my win class was period 2, so to speak, I could assume it's gonna happen in the morning, and not occur at the end of the day. So that hopefully, so again, yes, we'll have to do a little planning and adjustment as teachers and students to get used to that, but it's not going to change every single day tremendously. And I had an answer to your other question, but I.
125 student limit
Oh,
if
yes.
classes don't meet every day.
So again, that's, it's contractually, it's allowable by the contract, so it's certainly a consideration that I think the union has at some point given. We do have teachers who are teaching that way with those off-cycle classes. So again, it's not going to be something different than what other members of our faculty are already engaged in.
So I just want to say I appreciate the language choice. And when I say language choice, I mean language choice beyond Chinese and Spanish. There are probably some portion of our population that really wants to take Mandarin. The feedback I've heard from a lot of students is that they would have liked to have taken French in middle school. And initially they planned to like transition to French in high school, but then after having years, because they get Spanish in elementary school, then you go to middle school, you get 2 more years. A lot of them are like, why am I gonna change now? So I do think it gives them more option, and I suspect that you will see higher numbers in the high school French classes.
I suspect we'll start to see that translate up too.
Yeah.
I also wanted to kind of like give the perspective of like when students are able to start a language earlier at the middle school, that opens up more equitable opportunities for them when they get to the high school. Because right now, like if you want to get to AP French or AP Chinese, and you start like French or Chinese as a freshman, you'd have to double up in language, or you'd have to like study yourself and test out of a class or skip multiple classes in order to get to the highest level of that language. Whereas on the other hand, if you're studying Spanish, you can take 2 AP classes. So for example, I have maxed out the AP Spanish curriculum, and I didn't have to like test out or self-study during a summer to do that. But that is not an opportunity that's currently accessible to students who are interested in other languages.
We're going to try and finish this up, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the changes, and I think this feedback, response to the feedback, and it's great that, you know, you might find a natural place to rotate out somebody. That's great. So the one question that I had is not connected to the middle school, but like, you know, but the thing that we removed is the STEM instructional coach. And I think, you know, I just want to know what is the cost we're paying for that? Like, you know, is that something that is, it's okay to do, to postpone, or is there a real cost that the students are paying for not having a STEM instructional coach?
So I think we both feel that it's something that it will not adversely impact us if we delay it. And every other one of our instructional coaches has come from our existing faculty. And so I do not see any reason why we can't do the same with the STEM instructional coach. It's just gonna take a little bit more finessing, honestly, probably more the high school schedule in order to make that happen. And there's only so many scheduling changes you can make in 1 year, so this is enough for right now. And I will say also the timing with where we are in curriculum revision, delay for a year is not going to adversely impact us.
That's great, thank you.
Can we go back to the PE opposite music versus PE opposite health? And it seems like PE opposite music is not what anybody wants. And the health opposite PE, I have real concern about not adding the extra teachers and doing health for a quarter of the year, especially for 7th graders who have come from having recess to go to 7th grade and not have PE for an entire quarter of the year. I think you're gonna see major behavioral issues, especially for the 7th graders, but I would imagine the 8th graders too, to not have, and you know, I know with the original schedule, part of it was giving them more like physical activity, and so that would be my concern is, if you're able to do it 3 out of 4 days, that's a lot different than having a whole, you know, couple of months where you have no physical activity, no recess, no movement. So I personally would not vote for this schedule if we don't add 2 more teachers in order to do that.
And I have to say, the bigger concerns for me, probably the biggest one is combined 7th and 8th grade PE classes. The difference in developmental size of a 7th grader compared to an 8th grader can be fairly significant.
Especially beginning of the year.
So that is a bit of a safety concern. We don't even have PE classes, not very many, approaching 35 here at the high school. 33 kids would be a lot of students to have in a PE class, and remember, they're sharing the gym space, so you're really putting 66 kids into the gym space. Now that, you know, nicer weather, they can go outside, we can, you know, sort of use the fitness rooms and sort of spread ourselves out a little bit more, but those are the 2 bigger challenges, honestly, without adding the teachers, is really, and you know, Donna's been on health and safety. Every year they do the floor hockey unit, the nurse comes and tells us how many more, you know, broken fingers they have and injuries because it's floor hockey. And so I just sort of see, you know, that kind of plays in my head when I think of 33 students in a PE class. But it is doable and it is contractually allowable, and we do have a handful of classes sometimes that approach that half number. We just never have had that at the middle school.
I guess just a point maybe on the other side of that is we currently have athletic teams that are composed of 7th and 8th graders together across all sports at the middle school.
I'd like to follow up on, Chairman, on Jen's question. Because you indicated, and really without getting into the content of your comment concern, that you know, you wouldn't vote on the middle school presentation, and that kind of brings to my mind a question that I need clarity on, and that's to the extent that we have talked a number of days on a number of iterations of proposed middle school schedule changes. It's my understanding that the ultimate proposed iteration that may go forward still requires a board majority vote of ratification before it can actually be implemented. And that's, I guess my question is that not the case where however we finally propose a finally crafted iteration, does it not come to the board for a majority vote before it can be implemented?
To my knowledge, we have never voted on that.
No,
And
and I mean,
any
we-
change like that.
We change schedules all the time, and it doesn't come to the board, you know, when we have to run a extended Spartan seminar because the kids are registering.
Very different.
Operational day-to-day.
That's very different, I think.
Well, we've talked about it a number of times about changing, teachers, changing length of class days to the extent where we're even talking to union reps and we're getting legal advice. I mean, that doesn't really sound like a day-to-day operation. So what I would like to do to bring clarity to it is, first, if need, Chair, and I'm sure you'll instruct me, is I'd like to make a motion that the proposed middle school schedule change does not go forward without the ratification and authorization of a majority board vote. If for some reason, in a talismanic reading of our agenda for the evening, it could be argued that we didn't give the community fair notice of that motion, then I would make first a motion that we, by majority, rule that the circumstances are appropriate, that we add it to the evening, and then we move to require that the board vote by a majority before a middle school schedule change is implemented.
Something that we haven't discussed before. My concern is I don't see any precedence for this. We have never taken this up in that manner. And to say we should now kind of leaves me concerned that why are we doing that? Why are we suddenly changing the procedure that we've used for years and years and years?
Not in this manner, though. This is a very different, I think, protocol that we're talking about changing a schedule. Years and years ago, we're changing not length of class days, not addition or subtraction of FTAs, not moving teachers from one, place to the other. I don't believe, and you'll stand, correct me if you think I'm wrong, that we've had to actually consult and get legal advice and get union advice before we could proceed. And to the extent that some of these changes do bear and impugn contracts that the board has engaged in, I think, it's my opinion, and I'm certainly curious as to the opinion of the rest of our board members, that this is something that rises to the level requiring, board authorization, unlike an average day-to-day operational need. So the first motion would be to require there be board approval prior to any of this middle school change going forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I have concerns about
Are we having discussion now?
Well, yeah, she just said, is there discussion?
Yeah. A motion was made and seconded. Could you repeat the motion exactly as you said it, if you can? What did you say?
Yeah, no, thanks. I'll do it. Rolling back. The motion was that the proposed change to the middle school schedule not be implemented without majority board authorization.
Okay. And there was a second. The chair at this time does not feel that we can say that that motion should not be taken up. I do believe the motion was made legitimately. If at some time in the future we get a legal opinion that this is not appropriate for the board to take up, then we'd have to look at that. But at this particular time, I do believe that that motion should be considered. So we will have a discussion.
If I might just say something, because I don't want there to be misinformation. We have not had any legal consultation regarding this schedule. I don't need to speak with the board's attorney to know whether or not I'm operating within the contract language. I will meet with the union president because he is the best person to interpret that contract language, and that I have done because I did not want to create a schedule that would subsequently result in a grievance from the union. So I don't want there to be an impression that we've somehow had legal consultation.
And one more question for the superintendent before we have a discussion. In the years that you've been here, have you made major school-wide schedule changes that the board didn't vote on?
I think the last significant one would have been the high school switching to the 8-drop-6. That was before I was here, but I don't believe that I've never heard that there was a board vote around that. Dr. Tracy, I will defer to you because you created it and you would know.
I don't think the board voted, I don't know, I don't remember that.
I think it
I
was
don't think at that point I was
presented,
summoned to the board.
as you were presenting these, it was presented to the board as any changes in staff because we were going to that schedule.
We definitely made changes around COVID, we made changes after COVID. We put life arts on the team, took away electives, so those are things that we have done, that are pretty major changes.
Okay.
Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, do we have to amend the agenda first before we add the motion, because it's not on the agenda at all?
Well,
Or does the motion add that?
I think the motion is essentially adding. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I took the motion, is it's essentially an amendment to the agenda to take up this as a vote.
Then, okay, before we do that, then we have to vote on whether or not, whether or not we're doing that.
Vote on the schedule.
So we're having discussion.
Yes.
So, Paul, to your question, why are we bringing this up, right? I think there was so much lack of clarity around the school schedule, and then we got so much information, maybe right, maybe wrong, right, that teachers weren't informed or teachers didn't support it. And I think that created a lot of agita for the board, right? Or at least for me, right? There was a whole lack of clarity and we were kind of, the train was going, right? So I think that's the why, in my mind. And so for me, it's major changes, right? Not minor changes, but major changes that affect the children, the teachers, right? In that respect, I think the board needs to be informed and have some say.
Related to this discussion, just in terms of the budget, what we've been presented, what does the budget show?
So after going through this, the budget would have included the 2 health PE teachers, not a world language teacher, and.
Because you would switch Spanish to French.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We would be at what? The
1
number,
point,
35?
there's a couple other adjustments in there, but it's 1.35.
So we will be at 1.35 if we proceed with the 2 teachers.
Correct.
I have tremendous concern with the direction that this board is taking, that we hire the superintendent to run the school on a day-to-day basis. It is her job to do so. She presented something, we gave feedback, changes were made, and now we're trying to say, well, we want to vote on this decision. And I think that opens up the Pandora's box of saying, anything that the majority decides that we want to change her decision on, we're going to bring it up and say, we want to vote and let us decide. The superintendent has always been the person responsible for running the school district. That is what she's doing. That's why she's here. I think it is wholly and totally inappropriate for us to say we're gonna oversee. We are the board.
Sure. I feel the same, like, operational, we've always conceded that the operational, operations of the school is the superintendent's, and the only reason this thing came up right now is because there was a change in the budgetary needs. And so while we should definitely be talking about the budgetary aspects, I'm very uncomfortable with changing what our norms are with respect to the operations of the school.
Can we make a motion to table this until we have a judgment? I mean, we clearly, people are concerned whether or not we have a legal standing with some of these decisions. Why don't we get a legal decision on whether or not we should do this?
Patrick, if I may, I actually reached out to CAPE to find out what the board's authority is and isn't. And Gabe basically said that, that the superintendent needs the board's permission. The board can always override any administrative decision. It's the Board of Education has the authority over school schedule changes, including approving the annual calendar and structural shifts to school schedules. The board retains the right to direct operations, while the superintendent holds the executive authority for supervision, often implementing changes by the board. And this includes calendar approval, scheduling, restructuring, and operational control. So yes, it is. So Jen, she does the day-to-day. So whether we're having a seminar and how that all works, but when changes like this come, it is the board. And actually Stanford, their Board of Education just vetoed a type of schedule change that the administrators were attempting to implement at their school district. So at the board level, they vetoed it as well. So just to answer the question, yes, it is under the purview of the board.
Appreciate your work.
Thank
I'd like
you.
to hear from,
I'd like to hear from
finish
what she's saying before she's interrupted, please.
Sorry.
Thank you. So yes, it is the purview of the board to approve any type of schedule change. These are big deals. We're talking about changes that impact all of our stakeholders, and we are hearing a lot about this. And so yes, it is under the board's purview. However, we choose to vote. That is the board's choice in how they choose to vote. But it's not simply, oh, we're adding an FTE and we have a say. That's simply not true. We vote on a calendar. When the first day of school begins, when the last day is. We set the graduation dates. We issue all of the diplomas in the school.
Okay, I have a motion to table.
I think,
I have,
Yes.
just on the, legal reference, if you actually look at the teacher contract, it says the board holds, I don't know the exact verbiage, but it's something to the effect that the board holds the ultimate responsibility over scheduling, staff assignments, et cetera. So I think that's another point, that this is ultimately a decision to us, and frankly, we're the ones who are ultimately gonna be accountable for it. If a staff is reduced as part of this process, she's gonna say, well, the board chose to reduce staff. So I think that the board should be voting on this decision, and it's more than a budget issue. I think part of the reason that the board has this level of concern and wants to be on the record with what the decision is because whether you wanna call it misspoken or misstatements or misrepresentations, I think at the outset, the way this was presented to us was highly contradictory with what ultimately came forward and what we heard from teachers. And that is the source of a lot of the concern of the board. Won't speak for everybody, I'll speak for myself. To me, that was very concerning, to have administration stand up there and say, the teachers were unanimously in favor of this. I watched teachers sitting behind her, their mouths drop open when she said that. And then we get a survey from the teachers union that said 50 out of 58 teachers across both middle schools, who, by the way, that meant every single teacher in the middle school responded.
It did not.
It did not?
No, there's more than 59 teachers in the two middle schools. I believe it's up in the 80s.
It's 75 people or so per school.
75.
Okay, well, it's a very high percentage relative to any of the other surveys that are conducted.
Just one comment. Having spent a lot of time in Hartford, every state statute about secondary schools gives the board the responsibility. And if you read into many of those state statutes, the board passes and hires a superintendent to fulfill many of those duties that are passed on. So when they say the board, it's a
Well, this
pretty
isn't
balance.
our contract, like our teacher's contract. I'm not talking about the state statute.
Same thing. We hire the superintendent who actually negotiates the contract with our legal team. So I think we can not worry about that. We understand what the board means, but right now we have a motion to table. And the motion to table takes precedent.
Was there a second? I didn't hear one.
Was there a second here?
No.
No one?
Motion.
Is there a second?
I think Megan seconded it.
No, I didn't. I seconded.
No, not his motion, my motion to table.
There's no second to table.
Well, can you, as I'm still learning, can you explain a little bit more about what to table, like what that, how that is?
The table means that we're taking it off current discussion and we're waiting to the next opportunity.
kick it down the road for later,
Down the road.
whenever
With
or
no,
not.
with no specified, that's kind of more what I
Right.
meant with no. I think my worry is that I totally understand that there was a lot of confusion and worry from different parties at the onset. I also now feel like teachers were heard and a lot of board members were heard in this current, iteration that we're being shared with this evening. And so I just want to be mindful that we're now not pushing or moving forward with something that I think does a really nice job of answering a lot of the concerns, both from board members and from the information and surveys that we receive from students, because we're holding on to how it was first presented. And I totally hear and understand that, that's how people were feeling, but I guess I think I say that just as a reminder too. I feel like what we are presented with this evening does a really nice job of answering and providing what was upsetting to the teachers and addressing a lot of the student needs. So I just want to be mindful of that we're not just saying, well, now we want to have the say because we didn't like how it was first presented. And let's focus on where we're at tonight.
That's a great point.
All right.
If I can just.
So, yes.
Two more things, just because I just want to, again, sort of offer some clarifying context. I think there was a question of how we were pulled this together so quickly in sort of a 2-week time, like it was rushed. You have to remember, we had looked at multiple different types of schedules as we went through this process. So this wasn't necessarily just creating something from new. We already had a version of this to begin with, where we had kept the original 42-minute classes, and we're trying to see how all of the pieces would fit together with some more choice. So please don't think that we pulled off a miracle in 2 weeks. We really just had to go back to some of the other iterations of different schedules that we were looking at. The second thing, again, is there is change in this schedule, but the basic structure of it is exactly the same schedule that we currently have. 42-minute classes, 8 periods, academic subjects on the team. And what we've really, the two major changes is more student choice for electives and world languages and rotating that win block so that we can do a better job at providing intervention services. But I would say that 75% of our staff are not going to feel that this schedule is any different than the one that they're currently living under, because for the most part, the foundation of it is identical to the schedule we currently have.
Okay.
I want to echo what Autumn said. To me, when I was hearing it, I felt like you were very responsive to what was commented upon, and I think it felt good that you were responsive, and for that reason, I'm a little uncomfortable with changing the general protocol around how we've normally allowed for schedule changes. Indeed, if it was something egregious and really something that I would worry, I would also maybe think that maybe board intervention might be necessary. I just feel, given what we are talking about, to change a precedent maybe a bit too much in this context. And so I'm not sure that I do want to second the tabling of the motion, but I guess to the extent maybe getting a sense of the room is useful, I'm willing to second the tabling. But I just feel like this has been done reasonably well. I think most of our concerns have been taken, and therefore I don't know why we want to change the precedent of it. So I'm willing to second the motion if we want to have that table motion.
Can I just ask a question? I guess my concern and my desire to have a vote affirming whatever schedule we're deciding is to affirm that that's what's going to happen next year, regardless of the budget that we pass. There's significant flexibility in the budget, no matter what amount increase we approve, as we've seen consistently over the last several years, having multi-million-dollar surpluses. So I would like to know that if this is what we move forward with and we all agree to it, then this is what we move forward with, not, oh, well, we have room and we can actually do what was proposed before. So I guess that is another reason to have a vote, to have the certainty that this is what the board agreed on, this is what's moving forward.
Kathy?
Just a comment. about the motion that we had, even though we're going to postpone it, or
Well,
is if we did not have this motion, right? And we would have not had this plan, right? If we didn't ask for more input around what the schedule was going to be, that first schedule would have just gone forward, right? Unless we pushed it for the board to have more information and maybe board approval. Right.
and we also asked the administration to come up with a proposal.
It changed not because we, but I think your question was, it's changing because we're taking this vote tonight. It didn't change because we would take a vote tonight. It's changed because we went to because we heard about what the plan was. We said we weren't happy with it and there were changes. But it's not necessary.
To come to the board.
But all those changes, those changes happened without us having a vote of yea or nay on her plan.
I think what Kathy's trying to say is the schedule of presentation was kind of fluffed over in the beginning of the year, and then it was asked by a board member for the schedule to be re-presented to us because we felt we really didn't know a lot about it. So that's why we are here. Because a board member asked for it to be re-presented.
If I can, I've been quietly watching and I missed the last meeting. Everybody's concerned about how the schedule's gonna turn out. I have my own concerns. Watching everything and listening to everybody's concerns, coming through, if you can start going through, in the beginning, these changes, I don't think anybody had an issue with. The only thing I'm really seeing changing wise is if you get back to the PE teachers. That seemed to be the biggest concern. Does anybody really have a concern with how the language arts changes or how the arts changes? We're keeping the same routine schedule. Is that the biggest piece that's?
No, it's not.
Okay, I'm asking, Donna, that's, and I'm doing it as an open question.
Donna, you have a?
Where is the concern? What do we need to see, or what do we need to ask Jen to give us, like, here, this is what we want as the schedule? I'm assuming, taking it word for word, you guys want some kind of a schedule so that we know this is what the schedule's gonna be next year.
If I may, only because you like the questions directed this way, is that okay?
How do we get the details out, I guess, is how I'm asking.
This isn't even a vote on what's proposed. It's simply a discussion amongst the board to say, hey, let the board have the final say. When ultimately we've had a number of different, very, very different proposals brought to us. And initially, I think, I'll speak for myself and perhaps for others, where it was initially accepted by us in one light, and then after additional information came out, there was a different light that it was viewed in that wasn't quite the same. And then I think as more information was developed, I think there was a collective effort amongst the entire board with the superintendent to refine some issues that we saw. And ultimately, what I heard tonight, speaking for myself, I think it sounds pretty good. So the request, my motion to keep the board involved and ultimately have the board be able to give the final say and the final ratification, which I don't, we could almost maybe do it tonight, just theoretically, because I know it's not on the agenda. The merit of what we heard tonight is not the impetus for the motion, and it has nothing to do with the budget, nothing whatsoever. This is simply when we, as a board, as a school system, are talking about implementing changes that are not insignificant. I mean, they're actually multi-school, multi-district, impacting a lot more than usual. Let's stay involved. And Patrick, to your point, I mean, years past, man, I think there was a lot of apathy. I think there was generally a board that, had a great superintendent and really said, you know what, whatever you say is great. And I think we still have an awesome, superintendent, very capable. But it's just having seen how over this time, how we collaboratively together have, I think, really come up with a really good idea together. We may not have Dr. Byers here forever, and so it's more positional. It's more in the future, whoever's sitting in these chairs and whoever's sitting there, let's do it the way we just did it. And by having a motion that keeps the board required to be involved, that's all I was trying to propose.
Can I just respond to that for a
Yeah,
second?
sure.
So one of the things is that we have, I would strenuously disagree with the idea that any board that has been here has been apathetic, ever. And I'll say that, and you can have that opinion, and it's wrong. But the reason, like you said, Dr. Byers may not be here. Dr. Byers may not be here forever. And one of the things that, when she leaves, we'll be looking to hire another superintendent. And when superintendent candidates come in and they say, this is a board that wants to have their thumb on every decision that you make, you're gonna make it harder for us to hire another superintendent. And that's one of the things that we should be part of it is, she's hired to do a job, she's doing a job. Why do we have a great school system that we have done it this way for the whole time. Why now change it? Other than the fact that we wanna show, like, puff out our chest and have control over something that's been done a certain way.
I think our discussion is getting emotional, and unfortunately, that's not.
I'm sorry, Christian, I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Carol?
So I just
I'm
want to
gonna say
offer
something after
a
this.
few things. This issue is clearly distinct from the schedule, right? This is a larger issue that I'm hearing everyone bring up. I think a larger issue that probably requires some time for us to talk as a board and make decisions about how we operate and like be very clear or have, clear sort of details about sort of what our purview is, how we function. Boards function differently, right? I know lots of districts where, people would say, okay, the board is very super involved and micromanaging the superintendent. And there may be other boards where that's not the case. But there's a spectrum, right? So we have to decide as a board, how are we gonna function? What's our identity as a board, right? And I don't think this is the place to figure that out. I think the place is we come together, which I think, I'm always gonna say, every year, I think the board needs to come together and have a retreat. But I think it's coming away and really talking about our identity, who are we and how are we gonna function as a group? And we collectively make that decision. And we don't have to collectively make that decision with Dr. Byers, just our board. But I think that's necessary. And I think that's necessary yearly because we have people that cycle on and off. But how you function is a core thing you have to establish. So just want to offer that. I don't think it's unimportant. I see your point. I just think we need to take this up in a different space.
Okay. There is a motion to table. When that motion, if it passes, the board can take it off the table at any time and bring it up, back up, which indicates that we're going to be going into the budget next. If we want to do that, and if the motion to table is achieved, we could possibly take it up after the budget, but that will have to be also something that we'll have to bring forward. All right?
Well, if I may, just one last thing. And I'm not going either way. I just want to say, just because we've always done something one way, doesn't mean that we need to keep it that way. And that's not for or against what we're talking about here, but just for us to be open, and that's why dialogue among us board members is really important.
So that's very much in the spirit of what I was trying to say as well. We are trying to institute a change in the way we operate.
Right.
Is this the day and is this the time, given the outcome is something that seems to be satisfactory? Do we want to make that change today in the way we operate? And that is mostly, I think that, Carol, you said that very well. Thank you. And again, I think that was kind of what I was trying to say.
Okay, can we?
Paul, can I just, I'm sorry. Lisa, can you read the motion back?
This is a motion to table.
No, the previous
But we
motion.
still
We
still have to vote on that, right?
This is a motion to table. We've discussed it. It comes before anything else we do.
But we vote on the motion
But
to
can-
table, right?
Can I ask?
We do vote on the motion to table.
How about I ask what we're tabling? What are we tabling?
We're tabling the previous motion.
And she wants me to read that
Can I
motion.
hear the motion, please?
Okay.
As best as I was able to copy it down. The proposed changes to the middle school schedule will not be implemented without a majority Amity Board of Education authorization.
Okay, so Paul, I think what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing everyone's concerns about, is this we want to take it up now, here, is this the place? It's not, does the board have the authority? It's, does the board want to exercise that authority? Am I hearing that correctly from everyone? Okay.
I want to get a legal interpretation. You read everything you did, and that's great, but I want our attorney to tell us yes, what you said was absolutely correct, and the board has the authority to do this. And that's why I asked to table, because, and maybe Christian can confirm that if you have a legal opinion that you're discussing, you discuss it with people who know what the laws are and can give you a legal opinion. Sometimes it may be wrong also too, so, but.
How does that affect the schedule then? Let's say we do table it
Right.
and then wait for a legal opinion. Does that mean we
Well,
come back? Let's say we come back in 2 weeks or whatever our next meeting
Right.
is, and we say, oh, by the way, now we're going to say if, legally, our attorney comes back, the board attorney comes back and says, yes, this is within the board's purview. You say, okay, thank you. And then how does that affect the middle school schedule at that point?
Because then the board has to vote on it.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, it may be difficult to vote on the budget tonight if
I don't
you
think so.
don't have clarity on what's going to happen with the schedule.
I mean, I just heard almost everybody say this has nothing to do with the budget.
Well, there's two options up there budget-wise.
Right.
There are.
So just again, observation. You have to adopt a budget by March 15th, which is this coming Sunday. So if you don't do it tonight, we'll be back here probably tomorrow night or Wednesday night until you adopt a budget by March 15th. That said, you also have a public hearing that's scheduled at the beginning of April. And at the public hearing, the concept of it is to get feedback from the public, at which point the board could change the budget again. But in other words, I think you have time built in quite naturally between March 15th to the date of the public hearing, that if you had to make adjustments because you took up a scheduled vote later, you would be able to. I don't think you would necessarily, well, I can't say that one way or the other, whether you can increase it or decrease it. But again, by March 15th, you have to have a budget that you have approved. And then you have time to still sort of get that feedback up through the public hearing, which is the beginning of April.
Okay, the
I don't know
chair.
if that answers the question or not, but.
Here's the thing. The chair has called for a vote on the motion to table. Once that's done, we are going to move on to the next item on the agenda is the budget. Correct?
Yes.
Depending on the outcome of the vote.
What?
Depending on the vote, depending on the vote.
Unless you vote, yeah, but that's the next thing. So, can you call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, Lisa, would you mind, could you just state the motion again?
Right now, this is a motion to table the motion. The motion was that the proposed changes to the middle school to the middle school schedule not be implemented without a majority board authorization.
So if you say yes, you're saying we're not gonna have this discussion, and if you say no, you're saying I still wanna continue this
Right, a
discussion
vote,
of the
Discussion and have a vote,
Or to have the vote on the original.
and have the vote.
Right.
So if we're gonna table it, discussion ends.
On this particular, right.
So yes. Everyone good?
What? Okay.
Yes is tabling.
So if you say yes, you're tabling.
Right,
If you say
yes.
no, you want to vote on the original
Okay.
motion.
A yes kicks the can.
I'm not
a no,
done
we
with
deal
my
it now.
conversation, but I guess I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
Wait, what did you say? You want to table it?
I
Yes.
don't want to table it.
So you're
So
no.
Then you're a
You're
no.
no. Because you said, yes, I want to table it.
This is to table the motion. Ms.
Okay.
Bradley,
No.
for the record, no. Ms. Cloud Ingram?
Yes.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yes.
Dr. Karuna
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
No.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
No.
Dr. Ola DeLay?
Yes.
Ms. Rebuse?
No.
Ms. Schuster?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Okay, the motion to table does not carry. Can we do the budget presentation?
No, you still have to vote on the other motion.
What motion?
The original motion that was made.
Oh, you, okay. I understand what you're saying, you're right.
It's 6-6, does that?
6-6, so it didn't pass.
Okay, okay.
He's in charge.
So the table fails.
So we're voting on the other motion.
So now we're gonna vote on the other motion.
So can you repeat the motion that we're now voting on?
Yes, thank you, sorry.
So the motion.
Before
Go
you
ahead.
say it.
Yes.
we can still discuss this a little bit more now.
We finished the discussion, and that's when we went to the table, no? Or,
No.
let's discuss, because
Okay,
we need to
Right,
talk.
the table stops the discussion. All right, is there anyone that has anything to say? Okay. Just wanted to treat everybody fairly.
Are we going to vote on the first motion?
Yes.
What comes next?
Can we repeat the first motion?
Yes. The motion is that proposed changes to the middle school schedule not be implemented without a majority board authorization.
And can you just reiterate the no, what the no means and what the yes means?
I cannot. Mr. Davis.
All right, hold on.
I cannot.
Yes, they would have, we'd have to have a majority for Jen's schedule to pass. No, we would not.
So it's not voting on the schedule.
You know, I think the chair made a miscall before, because now that I'm thinking about it, this is not on the agenda. We did not, we didn't add anything to the agenda.
We started the vote.
He voted to move it to the agenda. He made that motion to move it to the agenda first.
He said we didn't need
He asked it.
Did we?
Right, Dr. Barry?
Wait a second.
To me, I think that's what.
She said
She
that
said the
making the
motion-
motion, she said making the motion.
Actually adding it to the
Adds
agenda.
it to the agenda.
There has to be a separate motion to add something to the agenda.
That
And
was the
then
motion.
you can add that item to the agenda, make the motion and discuss it. You can't, right? Am
I made the motion. I said, to the extent that in our agenda, it could be argued that the public was not put on notice of the motion before the board,
Okay.
I then moved that the
But we
board
didn't vote.
vote as on.
We did not.
We didn't vote.
I asked if it was necessary, and I think we decided.
And our chair said,
Yeah.
we'll proceed with vote, and then we had a table. So
Right, okay.
Are you overruling yourself?
Yeah, I think we need to vote on your,
So we go back to my initial motion
Right. Yeah,
of adding this to the agenda.
I need a motion.
I very honestly believe that's the correct procedure.
I'll
You
make a
have to add
motion to
something.
add it to the agenda.
Mr. McDonough, you'd like to?
I'll make the motion to add it to the agenda.
No, it's already made. It's already made. You can second it.
I'll second
All
it.
right, then do we need to second it, yes or no?
No, it's
I
been
just
seconded.
seconded.
Mike seconded.
Hold on, just for the record, I have, the motion was originally made by Mr. Young, and it was seconded by Ms. Revuse.
Yes, that's
To add this
Yes.
motion.
You
Is
lose
that,
out on that.
am I using that motion to add to the agenda?
Add to the agenda, and then the rest of it.
Okay, so that, yeah, but it was already, those two motions were already made. So the motions were already made, we just have to vote to add it, and then we'll vote on the
Right.
motion. Okay. Excellent, so, Ms. Bradley?
We're adding it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Cloud Ingram?
This is, I'm sorry.
This is just to add the vote, we're not voting actually on the motion yet, but just to
add
even
the vote
add
to
it to
the
the
agenda.
agenda at all, so that we can even have a vote.
And a discussion.
Yes.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yes.
Dr. Krunakaran?
I'll vote no.
Ms. Lombardi? Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Davis?
No?
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladile?
Yes.
Ms. Revuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion carries.
For clarification, the chair's interpretation, that motion was made and passed to add that as item number 8 on the agenda. And every other item on there is now pushed back 1.
Where are we? So discussion now? So now are we going to vote on the
Now,
actual?
now we discuss it.
Vote on that.
Right.
Can someone?
Vote on the motion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We have discussion now?
I mean, if the board is okay with this, we've discussed this endlessly.
Do we need to
So I
remove?
think the clarification is that what we are voting on is not the schedule itself. We are voting on whether the board
Has it-
makes the decision
Right.
about the schedule in general.
Yes.
Finalize it, yeah.
And can I clarify something? If we did not have this vote, is there any scenario where the schedule would not be as you presented it tonight? I mean, like when it's implemented.
I think that the biggest limiting factor is we would have to make some decisions if we do not have the teachers for the health and PE. Because I don't think any one of us want combined classes of 7th and 8th grade students that of 33. So we would have to probably revisit the issue of offering music off of opposite PE. We'd be right back. We literally wouldn't be changing the schedule at all, except maybe offering some world language choice. So, but that would be the deciding factor. So, yes, it still could change. But then it becomes budget, it's somewhat budget interwoven.
Yeah. And then also just for clarification, let's say this motion passes. We do not have to necessarily vote on this tonight, correct? We could say,
You could come
we
back in 2
think,
weeks.
yeah, we want more information. Like, let's say somebody
Right.
makes this passes, we make a motion to take the vote on the schedule. We have a discussion and we say, you know what, the piece of information we're missing is, we want another survey from the teachers.
Right.
I want to know which Spanish teacher, how this would work, right? We don't have to necessarily vote on this tonight. Okay.
But I think it also sets a precedent of
With the
we
budget.
don't ever end up in the situation that we were in, say, a month ago, where the budget reflects an 8-drop-2 schedule that none of us have been presented or are clear on what's going on. In my opinion, that's what this is for.
And what would it say, what would be the boundary condition on what would the superintendent need to come to the board with? That, like, I find that very difficult to decide on the fly as to what the boundaries are, because 8 to drop, maybe it's big. What is the thing? I think we need a fairly serious discussion about what is it that we are delegating to the superintendent versus not. And today's vote seems to be a little bit, we are making some policy on the fly, we're changing something, something big in terms of what the boundaries are. Because I don't know when the next, what is the boundary? And you have to come to us. And that is what gives me pause in setting a precedent of this nature. Because it could be simply, I need you to go and do a survey. Until you do it, I'm not going to vote, right? What is that boundary? And I understand that maybe we all have sense of it, but I just feel like a more detailed, thoughtful way of thinking through this before we make a change on a policy that we seem pretty comfortable with, I think might be the best step, instead of saying, oh, we're going to try to set a new precedent. I think it's very important that we take this vote fairly seriously. I don't take it lightly, and I hope others do too, because we don't know what the boundaries we are trying to set for the superintendent are.
Okay.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Cloud Ingram?
No.
Ms. Jacquet?
No.
Dr. Krunakron?
No.
Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Davis?
No.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladile?
No.
Ms. Rebuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
You announce the count, please.
6-6.
Motion does not pass. Okay. So, we are now at the budget.
So I don't have a lot of slides for everybody, so I can hopefully go through this fairly quickly, although I'm sure the discussion will be robust. So this is just where we currently sit. We have a recommendation currently to go no higher than 1.53% over the current fiscal year. That was approved on February 23rd. That includes 4 teachers. It included at that point in time 2 PE teachers, 1 world language teacher, 1 special education teacher, and it had reduced the STEM instructional coach. We obviously, while we still can, continue to look for places where we need to make adjustments. This is probably the biggest addition that we had. Now that our high school has been able to put in their course requests for the students, we had 42 requests for the certified nursing assistant course. We had budgeted for 15 spots because we weren't sure how it was going to be received by the students. We would like to increase to have 20 spots, which is the maximum that we can carry for one class period. And so that is a total increase of $8,190. And then in terms of the personnel impact, again, like I said earlier, in the world language, I do believe that we can offer the French choice without the addition of another world language teacher, and we would be able to repurpose or to reduce a Spanish teacher at the middle schools and essentially replace that with a French teacher. So we would maintain our current world language staffing. This does still include the 2 PE teachers, again, because I don't believe that we can make changes to how health and PE is offered safely without having those additional teachers, and the 1 special education teacher. So where that brings us at this point, and this is what I have proposed, is a 1.35% increase over the current budget year. This would include the 3 teachers, as well as the additional spots in the certified nursing assistant. Just for references, this is kind of where the rest of the state currently is. Covering somewhere around 3.5 for regional school districts. Board of Education adopted budgets, so that's sort of where you're going hopefully tonight, are around 4.5%. You can see the budgets for our 3 elementary school districts coming in, and Amity at 1.35 continues to be the lowest budget request in the state of Connecticut. Upcoming meetings, like I said, the public hearing is on April 6th. That's where people can come to this board meeting and give feedback in person about the budget, but it's also a place where you as a board can respond to that feedback and kind of gives you that chance to make final adjustments. After the public hearing, which is also when you set the date of the referendum, we can't make any more changes until it goes to referendum. So that's kind of your last date. And then the referendum is May 5th. And that's where we are.
Okay. So, do we have a motion? And we'll discuss it. Motion to
Discuss the budget, accept this,
approve
To approve a budget of
1.35%
1.35% fiscal year for 15.
Do we have a second? Second.
I'd like to move to amend the motion.
Second.
In place of.
Okay, hold on. We'll give her a chance to write, Megan. Okay. Go ahead with your amendment. It's appropriate. Amendment is appropriate at this time.
In place of the proposed budget are we proposing the 1.35%?
Just, yeah, just.
I move that the board adopt a revised budget with the following modifications, that the proposed budget increase by 1%, with the roughly 200,000 reduction from the superintendent's proposed budget be taken from either the salary or purchase services line items, which have consistently been over budgeted by a combined $1.5 million for the last 4 years.
That should not be part of the motion.
Okay, well, that's part of my discussion.
Well, then, make your motion.
That the
and you can add your
proposed
discussion.
budget increased by 1% with the roughly 200,000 reduction from the superintendent's proposed budget be taken from the salary and or purchase services line items.
Okay, that's a good one. Do we have, and we had a second?
We did.
We did, Christian. Okay.
Is that a second?
What?
Yes.
Made and seconded, and what was it, 1 point?
1%.
1%, okay.
Salary or purchase services.
All right. Kathy, do you have a comment?
No, I was seconding her motion.
Okay.
We already had one, it was.
Christian did it.
So now we have.
Christian beat you to it. Christian beat you to it. Okay, discussion?
So can I just add?
Now you can use it in discussion.
So one thing, we keep highlighting that 1.35% is the lowest in the state. I would just like to refer everybody to the bottom of page 4, where it shows that this is actually a 3.3% increase if you remove the impact of the debt service offset, which is what would be comparable to what most districts in the state have, other than regional districts that are carrying debt. So most districts do not have roughly $1 million plus offsetting their operating expenditure increase. The other thing I just would like to emphasize to the board is that as a whole, we obviously devote a significant amount of time to the budget itself, but we spend far less time reviewing actual financial performance once the budget is passed, at least beyond kind of the AFC. And even in our monthly reports, we compare almost exclusively the current versus our estimated budget, never actually to actual historical numbers, and never consistently to multiple years at a time. So 80% of our budget, or of our surplus every year, comes from really two buckets. About a third of it is from salaries, which for the last 4 years have been over budgeted by over $600,000 consistently every year for the last 4 years. And then almost half comes from purchase services, and really that comes from two buckets. Another third is tuition expense, and then about 14% from transportation. And I think it's important for those who may not have financial backgrounds to understand that the surplus, yes, it's related to risk, but it also should be that risk is commensurate with the volatility associated with a budget. And a school budget, with some exceptions, is very predictable. We know how many teachers we're going to have. There is some fluctuation, but to put it in, there can be a little fluctuation in terms of exactly the teacher in that exact seat, but to put it in perspective, a $600,000 over budgeting on salary is the equivalent of 12 teachers retiring at the highest salary threshold and being replaced by somebody at an entry-level threshold every single year. Or the equivalent of 5 to 6 unfilled positions at high experience levels. So that to me just seems significant. And given our hiring patterns and staffing stability, we don't have a lot of turnover, unexpected turnover. We don't have a lot of unexpected retirements. We tend to know kind of going into budget season what those will be. I just am not clear as to why that's so consistently happening. And so to try to, get our town support, because I'll remind you that at the AFC on the recommendation, the first vote you had all 3 town representatives vote no. The second time you had 2 of the 3 vote no, and those 2 represent towns that account for 80% of the voters who are going to vote on the Amity referendum. So losing town support matters, and I think it's important that we hear their concerns about the excessive surplus. So that's on the salary side, which frankly I think is more than enough to kind of account for the $200,000 reduction. And on purchase services side, that's been over budgeted by, on average, about $900,000. It's ranged from $500,000 to $1.5 million over the last 4 years. I asked during AFC Mr. Brandt some questions about what can we expect in terms of volatility. He said we've had, at the high end, 1 student that cost roughly, I think you said $447,000. There's been 2 unexpected instances similar to that over the last 7 years. So when we have a $1.5 million surplus coming from those 2 buckets, we're basically saying, let's plan to have the worst case scenario in all these circumstances all at the same time in 1 year. And that just seems excessive in a business that has relative stability and predictability. That's my discussion.
Okay. Christian? Thanks, sir. And somewhat to my neighbor in Orange who spoke up earlier with his 2 minutes. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but apologize, I didn't catch it. But I nodded my agreement with what you were saying and your observation. A lot of the dialogue or debate and discussion about this budget surplus could be characterized as ideological. I mean, and I think there's probably no disagreement that some amount of a buffer is not a bad idea, is a good idea, but the question is how much, and how much is too much? And then if we year after year after year after year provide for a buffer in the millions of dollars, is there not at least the ideological notion that maybe we could actually do a more accurate, accountable budget, whereas we heard some of our younger constituents and students here saying, look, we really want to know where the money goes. Could we not provide more line item accuracy without having millions of dollars at the end go into what could be, and I don't mean to, suggest there's anything nefarious, but like a slush fund, like a general, hey, it's for the good, it's for good purpose, as my colleague Sudhir says, so what? We're using it for good stuff. It doesn't really matter, does it? No, it actually does. The town members want to know exactly what line item their money is going into. So, yes, it's ideological to a degree, but to back up or piggyback on or augment what Megan was saying, these are our numbers. These are from, our accounting. In the year 2021 through 2022, in January, it was projected we would have a surplus of 375,000. When at the end of the year, we had one over 600,000. Same thing for 22-23. In January, it was projected we'd have a $275,000 surplus.
About the salary line?
Yeah, this is the salary line item. This is salary, right. And then at the end of the year, we had a $670,000 surplus. On salary line item in 23-24, it was projected we'd have a almost $300,000 surplus in 23-24, and we had a $633 surplus. And then in 24-25, it was projected we'd have a $95,000 surplus, when in fact we had a $650,000 surplus. At what point does surplus, which seems to be almost like, hey, pleasant surprise, we did a really good job this year, we've got a little extra money left over, but year after year after year after year, that's not an accident, that's an intentional over budgeting by design to leave a significant amount of money in, as Megan said, a non-volatile line item. I mean, how, under what circumstance, even with COVID, we didn't dip below a $650,000 surplus. So I support Megan's motion and the motion to pass a 1% budget with, I'll say, the difference coming out of the salary line item. I don't want to denigrate as saying as an ideological statement, but as a recognition that we as a board can do better. We have now realized every single year we have, at what point can you say it's not intentional? We have intentionally built in almost a $750,000 surplus in one line item alone, in the salary alone. So I am voting with a 1% and taking out the difference out of the salary line item to try to bring some more reasonable risk tolerance to what I don't think is a reasonable buffer of $2 million every year.
Okay, before, you're talking about the salary line item.
I was. When I was referencing numbers, thank you, Paul. When I was making reference to numbers of years 21, 22, 23, 24, I was looking directly at our salary line item exclusively with our January projected followed by our actually realized.
Okay, before we go further, could I have either Terry or Dr. Byers, how do we develop that line item, the salary line item? What's it based on?
Every single staff member who's working for us now, or a position proposed in the budget, is there. They're moved up on the appropriate salary step for the following year. Any stipends that they're entitled to for all the salaries. And then we average out how much we've used for substitutes, for coverage costs, the other things that are not as finite.
Okay, so basically if we were to do this, we'd have to kind of say, okay, we're taking this, and where's it coming from? I mean, if you're going to take that much money out, how do we get it? What are we going to have to reduce in that salary line item to make it lower? Because if you take all the salaries that you put in, they're all positions, correct?
Correct.
So can't take it from there, because to do that, you'd have to eliminate some positions.
Well, somehow at the end of the year, you end up with $600,000 left over as a surplus.
But is that, okay, can I ask a question?
Just to clarify one,
Okay.
How does that happen? Because like we're seeing in tonight's packet that there were a resignation of a teacher and a paraprofessional. Is that because people leave and then we're not paying that salary for a teacher?
And then until we hire somebody, there's nobody in that position, but we obviously budgeted it for them to be here for the entire year. There are a lot of leave of absences that happen in the springtime. It's very common that teachers go out on maternity leave at the end of the year, so they have the summer off after. And they buffer that up, so that's when you hit a lot of unpaid leave of absences, so it's a cycle in schools.
With the exception of the estimate on substitutes and so on, every dollar in there is spoken based on the positions that are in the school district that we're paying for.
With some accounting.
Positions and person, right? Because each
Right, the person, right,
is a
yes.
different spot on the salary
Right.
scale, and Ms. Loomis actually accounts for each actual person.
And with some projections for retirement, that is actually removed. So it's not like, so they have some projections for retirement, so which they are reasonably confident of. The resignations they cannot project, but the retirements they do, right? So there is something that they do take into account. And the other thing that maybe might be worth clarifying is, like, even though the numbers look very large, 600,000 on the salary line, there is some adjustment that comes from the professional services part, right? Like perhaps there is a little bit of clarification that the number should not be literally taken because there is a substitution elsewhere that is going on. Perhaps a little clarification might help.
Because we have to hire outside consultants to fill some of those positions, especially in the
Right.
special education area. We have to meet the services for students' IEPs. So, but it's on a different line item.
Right, oh, okay.
You said it's not a different line
No,
item.
it's on a
different line.
Oh,
different
it's
line.
on, okay.
So the 600,000 looks bigger than what it actually is because there is some, the professional services line.
It would fall under purchase services, correct?
Correct.
So over the same time horizon that we have averaged a surplus of over 600,000 on the salary line item, within purchase services, we've averaged over $900,000 surplus.
And that also includes many other things besides those
So if I
contracted
pull out
services.
pupil transportation and tuition expense, the remaining other bucket has averaged a deficit of $22,000, which is a drop in the bucket compared to over 600,000. So if we're making the argument that there's an offset, that offset has averaged to be very minimal relative to $600,000.
Jen?
So for clarification with what they are proposing, could you actually take on that risk and do the budget as it's written? Like, you know, we go down to one, but you do everything you're still planning on doing that's in the budget currently? Or would you have to reduce teachers?
We wouldn't, all of the new teacher proposals, which would account for some of that, would have to be eliminated, and then we would have to probably look at other areas where we would just have to take a risk. Around substitute teachers is probably, if we're talking about salaries, that's our biggest one, and in purchase services, there's, you know, I don't know, legal fees, I mean, Terry knows everything that's in the purchase services more, but yeah, we would be reducing things, but most certainly to get to a 1%, any of the new teacher proposals would not move it.
All right, would it be reasonable to say, if this passed, we'd have to eliminate the two individual physical education teachers that would go to that middle school plan?
Yes.
So we are automatically directing the board to vote for a budget that would eliminate a particular schedule or plan for the middle schools.
There's
Without the
no
fifth.
way to have those people in the budget and then see where the surplus is at the end of the year. And if you end up short, go to a referendum.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can't deliberately plan your budget with the expectation that you go to a referendum.
No, and I'm not saying that, but as they're
And-
trying to point out, we've been $1 million surplus every year. We've got money coming back to the town every year since I've been on the board. For the sake of, we're asking 200,000, Megan?
Yeah, 0.3% of
For
nearly $60 million
200,000,
budget.
I would be willing to take the risk that we're gonna have some kind of a surplus at the end of the year. That would cover that and still have your teachers that you're proposing here. I would take that risk.
So I just want to say that we do have to have money at the end of the year, right? Like, we are a school district, but I'm also thinking about, like, my town, right? We're having conversations about, you know, a new elementary school, and, you know, people are concerned about taxes. I guess my question to you is, well, I think about these things as like very different, right? Surplus, yes. At the end of the day, you need something left over in your checkbook, right? You can't like go down to zero. However, I've always wondered, can we operate leaner with some line items. And does the reduction have to come from this budget? Can it not come from another line item where, you know, we see that we sort of usually have money left over, or a budget line item that we might be willing to take a risk in sort of reducing? I guess I'm just not sure that it has to come from here. I like this schedule. I really appreciate the responsiveness, you know, of this schedule to all the comments that we had a couple weeks ago. But does it have to come from here? The reduction that is being proposed?
No, it doesn't, but I wouldn't advise it coming from any other place, because all those other, and you know, line items, they are accounted for either off of real numbers when we talk about staff, or off of 3-year real contracts, right? Because we have a lot of those, so we know what the contract costs are for next year, or off of historic 3-year averages. Those are for the things that are least predictable, right? Like substitute usage. So unless, and again, I'll just use, you know, that as an example, unless we foresaw some dramatic change in our staffing and leave provisions, I wouldn't think that we would see that much of a change in how we use substitutes. Unless we saw, you know, I mean, there are times when we may not need as much legal fees, but those are years when we're not negotiating contracts typically, so we don't necessarily, so we account for that. So I just don't, you know, I wouldn't make a reduction in electricity supply. That's only gone up every single year and is under budgeted every single year for the past 2 years, so we wouldn't make changes there. I don't think that, you know, we're locked in on fuel prices. We know about how much fuel we spend over a 5-year average. There aren't a lot of places where we could make those changes. The flexibility is in the new positions that have been proposed.
What about, I know as a district, we've been really good about, you know, cost efficiencies over the year, right? Like we get money back from, we get grants, or we get reimbursements, not special ed, because that's probably a sore area, but like reimbursements for other things. Could we think about, you know, areas where we are like really good at sort of saving money? And
so one of the things with grants, and it's written into almost all the language, is that it is to supplement, not supplant. So we can never look to our grant sources, whether it's Title I or II or IDEA, as a place where we can put things that are in our budget, now all of a sudden to say the grant should pay for that. Because that would be supplanting, and it's literally prohibited in the administration of the grant. Our grants are locked in for that supplement piece. And they're really outside of those federal grants, there really aren't a lot of other grants that we get. We never get the security grant ever. So we try every year, but it's always awarded to the 3 towns. There really aren't opportunities like that available for school districts.
Can I just say one? So in the interest of framing this, right, so it'll be useful to think about, I think Christian said this, some of it is ideological, and like, you know, I'd be trying to think, okay, well, we should really cut it down to the bone and like, you know, what exactly it is. But I think even if you take the idea that because this year's number is low because the debt servicing amount is lower, as Megan said, it is 3.5% or 3.3% or whatever that is. Now think about a budget in which we've guaranteed a salary hike of over 3.8%, or what is the hike that we've guaranteed?
The salary, it's 3.87, I think.
3.87. The inflation that we all know, right? We're talking about cutting costs and things like that. Does it feel like a 3.3%, even accounting for the increase, is extravagant, right? Like, is there something that, like, you know, people are padding, like, you know, is there not enough effort being made? I think that is quite a reasonable number given what we've contracted out. And I get the idea that this thing, like, meaning we can do a one-time reduction in the surplus. And it's a one-time thing. We should remember this for, and this is the part that I find it most difficult. We are for a one-time reduction to the taxpayer, whatever that savings we are going to make. Because this is not going to happen next year, right? Because next year you got to pay the full amount for whatever the increase is. We are taking a risk for this one-time reduction that we want to give a taxpayer. It is not even money that this taxpayer paid, because this has been sitting there for like many, many, many years. Some taxpayer over time had paid this amount. And we want to take this risk. We want to disrupt this budget for what is really a 3.38%. Given 3.89% increases, et cetera, that we filed with the contract. So I think it's important to frame this as, yes, it can look like $1 million, but like it is really, not incompatible with the kinds of expenses that the school district is facing year after year after year.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Just clarification to what Sid here is saying, that for the 4.1 million that's currently sits in CNR and REE, what are those designations? And since now it's no longer necessarily for CNR, that can be used for any type of operational expenses that the school district incurs. Am I misunderstanding?
So first you have some money in a capital non-recurring account. That's the old one.
Right,
That can only be used
that's just
for
like
capital
1.7, I think, something to that
Then
effect.
remember, we set up our educational reserve.
1.9.
And so that has money sitting in it. An educational reserve fund does have more flexibility to it. It can be used for any educational expenses. By policy, as a board, you decided to use that fund for capital projects unless the 2/3 vote chooses to use it for something else. And yes, in theory, you could vote to use that money for something else. What's there right now is designated. It would have to be any monies available going forward that you would either not designate or change the designation on.
Right. So
But they're designated, but just to be clear,
we can
they're
change
gonna
the
be reimbursed. The funds designated in the educational reserve fund are currently designated for the library project, which we're going to receive grants back from the state. So how much of that money that's designated, the point she's trying to make is right now there's 4.1 million sitting on our balance sheet. And while that is designated for projects, there's a big chunk of it that we're going to be getting back. There's going to be a surplus again at the end of this year that you're gonna ask us to vote for another 2% to get set aside for. So to Sudhir's point that this is a one-time, it's not a one-time thing. Every year it's $2 million that then we keep, and then we choose some projects that we wanna spend it for. We're also gonna go out and bond. We should be brainstorming what all those projects are, putting them into the bond, presenting them to voters to vote on, not having them vote to approve line items like salary and transportation and special ed tuition expense that we over budget by $2 million and then keep and create a slush fund that we spend on projects that don't go out to voters to see. That is the fundamental issue that many of the taxpayers and town's Board of Finance have concern. And I'm asking to try to respect some of those wishes and take a small chunk of the 2,200,000, 10%, not a whole lot. And I don't think it means we have to eliminate anything that you're asking for. I just think it means that we don't end next year with a $2 million surplus.
I would first like to address the characterization of our educational reserve fund as a slush fund. We have always been very clear that we identify projects that are in need of repair and fixing, but they're projects that we could defer for a certain amount of time. If funds are available, they are still projects and repairs that are necessary to continue to provide buildings that are appropriate for our students, and we use that money so that we can make those changes without having our taxpayers pay the interest on a larger bond.
So why don't we include them in the budget? Why don't we come up with them during the budget process so that they're included as transparent line items?
They are included as part of our 5-year capital plan. And at a certain point, we identify whether or not they're going to go into bonding and operational budget, or if we're going to use the educational reserve fund to pay for them. that changes from year to year. If you look at our 5-year capital plans, you will see things that were originally operational that then we had to move to the reserve fund or CNR. You'll see things that we designated for CNR that we said, no, we need to put that into the operational budget. Every year it changes, but it is on our 5-year plan and we identify which account it's going to come from.
So, I'm sorry, I did have a second question.
just wait.
If I may ask. Okay.
I'm looking at these budget references. I see Amity Regional, 1.35% increase that was proposed. I'm not proud of that. I think people think we're jumping for joy because we can make the lowest budget in the state. Does that include the STEM teacher that we were going to hire?
No, that does not.
Why did we take that out? What was the reason we took that out?
So that we can have a low budget.
Right. That's not what I call being a person committed to education. I think that should go back up in there. So, yeah, we can find ways to find more money to do stuff, more money not to use. However, I've worked with these people for 6 years now, and I'm proud of the work that they do with our budget. I'm proud of the work that they do in managing our money. It's more than 17 years ago. It was like 20 some odd years ago. We had 17 budget votes because of the mismanagement of the district money. And it took all that time and all this effort, and I don't hear people complaining, other than a few people. I don't hear people complaining about the surplus, what we spend the surplus on. I hear people saying, oh, wow, you'll be able to do that media center, and it won't cost the taxpayers a bond. Yes, we should be bonding. We should be bonding on certain items. I just can't go back and sit with myself and feel good about myself because we are working so hard to not spend money where we should be spending money. More education, better education. There's so many things that some of those other school districts are spending their hard-earned taxpayer money to maintain the quality and improve the quality of their school district. I know that there were numerous other places, and we talk about employee numbers. We've added numbers, and they've been added when they were really desperately needed. If we had done it before then, we might not have run into the problem. So we can talk about this all night, whether it's 1.35 or 1.0. I don't think either one of them are the type of number that I'd really feel that comfortable with. But if the superintendent says she can work with 1.35, I will support it. I will absolutely not go any lower than that. And I would recommend all of our members of the board, remember that you're here to support education, reasonably fair to the taxpayers, and that's about the lowest thing in the state for the taxpayers. No matter how you handle it, the taxpayers of Bethany, Woodbridge, and Orange are getting a very, very low rate on their budget. And the taxpayers will vote in favor of it like they did last year, where we had people in Orange who voted against it in the budget meeting, and yet came back at Orange after the town voted it by a 3-to-1 margin, victory. Same thing in Woodbridge, 2-to-1, and Bethany was also 3-to-1. So people are interested in quality education. It's going to cost money, and I don't think being proud to get our budget down to 1.0 and tell everybody in the state, look how low we got our budget, I don't think that makes me proud. We have a person in Orange who always uses a very famous term that he passes to everybody else at the finance committee meeting. And a friend of mine, I've gone out to dinner, we sat and we talked about it. He says, we've got to learn to do more with less. Well, sometimes it takes more to do more. And that's what I think we should be looking at here, not how low we can go. Sorry.
I do take umbrage with your stochastic Paul, that you're saying that some people here are just saying spend less, spend less, spend less. All I have heard here were people saying, let's have less of a surplus, let's have less of a surplus. It wasn't, let's get the numbers down. It wasn't, no one here has said, let's spend less on education. The only thing I've heard in relation to a budget is, let's have less of a surplus. So I'll pose a rhetorical question to you, because I don't need to turn this into a debate, although it could be interesting. How much of a surplus would you think is okay? 10%, 15%, 20%, it's rhetorical, okay? So again, no one here has said fire teachers, take away classes, reduce the per capita expense for a student, all right? So for you to say that veiled comments that there are people here who are saying take away from our education, take away from our students, that is not the case. All I've heard and all I've said myself is, let's try to take away from the surplus, not from the school, not from the administration, not from the kids. I do want to correct you on that. And if you have heard anyone say at this bench to anyone, I want to take away from our schools, please point them out tonight, okay? Otherwise, I think you stand corrected. I think the only thing that's been said is let's have less of a surplus, right? So the only thing I'm asking is let's have less of a surplus. I mean, if the overall number wasn't the focus. And by the way, as Sadir had said, it's actually closer to 4%, but that's not it. We're only talking about the surplus, okay? We're not talking about tearing away what we all are sitting here because we're volunteering our time because we care for the kids, we care for the schools, we care for the teachers. No one here is predatorily trying to take away from our school system.
My apologies.
I appreciate.
No, hold on. My apologies for the way I stated that. My concern still is that the message that our administration gets is you've got to spend less money. All the time spend less money. And we get it back no matter, for the last several years, at least from the Orange Board of Finance, no matter how low we send the budget to them. This year I think it was 1.7?
I think it was 2.21 when we.
Originally, but when you did your presentation.
I think it was still. They were very early. It was still in the low twos.
In any case, no matter how low we've gone in our budget, and it seems each year we've gone lower and lower and lower, they can't accept that. Even now, when I hear you have to go below 1.0, and you didn't make the 0.99 on your...
I was just keeping it simple.
So,
good, I'm glad.
One other thing I wanted to add, could add this, because I think, our choices affect the way the surplus happens. We could do many things by contracting out, and we would have predictable budgets, right? The fact that we put all of the special education increases the variance, because what it does is, so now we have bigger head counts, right? There are more likely people who are. So what it does is, instead of, if we were to send this money out, we would have to pay a lot more. You would get more predictability because, many exactly you would be paying.
We actually said by insourcing it, we've reduced the variability.
No, by insourcing it, you can reduce variability, but the absolute magnitudes go up. So in terms of the numbers, the surplus necessary to deal with it will increase. The second thing I'll say is, so everything that we do, right, we are increasing the number of teachers. The teachers have increased partly because of, so when you do all of those things, so it's essentially we are effectively doing, so the reverse is, Megan, I think this is what maybe I misspoke and maybe you're catching on the right point. What I was trying to say is that by choosing to do a lot of things in-house, we are reducing the insurance premiums that we need to pay for elsewhere, right? So the fact that we are doing insurance, self-insurance, means that we are not paying an insurance company to pay for that premium. That is money that we save for the taxpayer. When we do in-house special education, we do things at a lower cost. It's more work, but it also brings in lower cost. We never seem to give credit to this administration for the kinds of things that they are continuing to choose to do, which actually reduces the total cost year after year. But we are so focused on that variance and the thing that about the surplus that we forget to give credit to the things that actually makes the real costs go down. And so I'm a big supporter of these budgets because I feel like this administration, I was as skeptical as you were when I joined the board. I went through every number, I was critical, I asked Terry for every kind of question. The more she answered me, the more trust I built. And that is why I find it very hard when words like lack of trust or slush fund and words like that really gives me rhetorically a bad feeling about what is going on. This district can be trusted. Now, we might disagree on what that margin is, but let us not use words like they're not trying to bring down the cost. Let's not use words like slush funds and things like that, because that really is not the spirit of what this administration does. And I think it's important for the taxpayer to hear this, because otherwise we're kind of, corroding the trust of the taxpayer in the school district.
Just a quick comment. So first of all, I take offense that you think we're trying to take things away from the children and take things away from the teacher. I know. I think the way the budget process has been done, I'm talking about the process, right? Over the last 5, 6, 7 years has caused us to take a hard look, right, and ask the questions we're asking, because the surplus is consistent year after year after year. And so you have a surplus of 600,000. Good year. Then you have it again the second year. Then you have it again the third year. It says we really need to take a hard look at the process. And that's what we're asking. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about taking away from, we're not talking about people doing a bad job. We're not questioning, we're not saying take teachers away. We're saying the process needs to be more effective and more efficient.
Okay.
So I just had a second question for Jen. May I ask it?
Yeah.
You don't seem like you want me to ask it based on, I'm just reading your face. The question is that if the amendment were to pass at a 1% instead of the 1.35, am I hearing you correctly that you would just not change the middle school schedule? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't believe we could hire 2 additional teachers for health and PE. I am not comfortable having combined 7th, 8th grade PE classes with 33 kids in them. So the changes we would want to make, kind of the ideal changes for the middle school schedule, I don't believe that we could do. There might be some very small things we can do, like pulling world language off the team and giving world language choice. But even then, we've already taken out a world language teacher. I've heard Jim riffs, so we have to see if we even have an opportunity to do that. But the PE would be my one pause. I don't feel good about PE classes of 33 kids that have 7th and 8th graders in them.
But if we passed the 1% and said, keep all that in, doesn't that fall on us as the ultimate responsibility? I mean, you'll have to deal with the headache, but the ultimate responsibility would come back to the people that passed it.
It would, and I think the board just sort of getting to the public comment tonight, it has to be willing to understand the risk that you would now you have a budget that really didn't account for every single position that we were going to hire for, intended to employ, and you're just hoping at the end, everything turns out good in the wash at the end of next school year.
So can I just follow up?
And to be fair, Ms. Loomis and I will actually have to find, like if you say keep the teachers, we will have to go and find the line items that we do reduce. What those are would remain to be seen, but maybe one of the options is we take out all of our contingency funds. And you just say that there is no contingency.
Except for the surplus will carry over from this year into next year.
So again, we will actually have to make line item adjustments because that's what we have to have for a budget. But what those are at this moment, I don't have a good answer for.
Okay, so I just want to follow up. So I do have a concern about the reduction in force for the Spanish. Personally, I would feel more comfortable if we just started out slowly and offered Spanish and Mandarin.
Well, again, I think we have to respond flexibly because we don't know what happens between now and July. So, or August for that matter. So I think for us, we have to do the schedule. So at some point, we have to make a decision based on what we do for our staffing levels. I understand what you're saying, so your request to me is no pink slipping of a teacher. But other than that, I don't wanna say we're not gonna offer French next year, because we could have the cards fall in the right place and possibly be able to do it. So I can't, I can't give you a timeline under that kind of desire, but if you can understand that we will take advantage of an opportunity if it presents itself, and we can live with that, then that's what we would sort of have to do.
All right, I think we've discussed this long enough. We are voting on the amendment only. Yes means the amendment goes into effect, and we are at a 1.0. A no vote means the amendment does not go into effect, and we are back to the original motion of 1.35. Everybody understand? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Paul, could you say that one more time?
Right now, we're voting on the amendment.
Amendment only, yep.
For the 1%.
Of
Yes means you want it to go through, no means you don't.
Okay.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Cloud Ingram?
No.
Ms. Shakay?
No.
Dr. Kruna-Karan?
No.
Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Davis?
No.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladele?
Abstain.
Ms. Rebus?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
What is the vote so far?
Five noes.
We shouldn't, no.
Oh, that's what she was asking, I'm sorry.
Then yes.
No.
But Mr. Young?
Yes.
It was five noes. 6 yeses, 1 abstain.
Okay, so the budget is now at 1.0, right? And we will be voting on that.
Call the roll. Ms. Bradley?
Can I ask a clarification?
Oh, I'm sorry,
I just-
I didn't realize people wanted a
So,
question.
so if we vote, if we all vote yes on this, it's at 1%. If we vote no, can it go higher than 1%? Would we be able to make another motion higher than 1%?
You want an amendment, sure?
Okay. So,
No, go ahead.
no, I'm asking, because I'm,
If the motion fails, then you can.
No, the amendment passed.
the amendment passed.
Right, so you have a one,
We're going to vote on the budget.
Now we're gonna vote on that amended,
At 1%.
yeah.
Okay.
For a 1%.
yeah, the amendment replaces the original motion.
But if we vote no, does that also open up an amendment to increase?
Well,
No,
if we voted no.
We're having a discussion now.
Okay.
We are having a discussion now. And I don't wanna get everybody mixed up about this, but if you're gonna make an amendment, you have to make an amendment to this particular item, the 1.0.
Otherwise, we default to this 1.35. Otherwise, we default to the 1.35.
My question, I'm sorry, my question is, if this 1.0 does not pass, we would just have, we would have
have
the
a new
option of
motion.
a new motion
You have to make a new
at
motion.
whatever percent. We're not limited to go below 1% is what I want to make sure.
No.
Okay,
no.
okay, thank you.
Because procedurally, we should have, normally, right, we would have voted on the 1.35 before we had the motion for 1, but instead it was an amendment instead of a.
Right, and now
Now we're actually
the
voting.
amendment replaces the original motion. So if you want to make an amendment to this motion now, you have to do it now.
An amendment to the motion of 1%?
So we're voting on 1%. You either vote yes if you want the 1% or no if you don't. It's coming down to that simple. If it doesn't pass, then we reopen.
I just want to make sure that everybody's getting the correct information. We are voting on the motion at 1.0. If you increase, if you want to make an amendment to vote on something different that would replace, if it passed, the 1.0, it has to be done now, not after a vote.
I want to make it, well, I don't know if this is an amendment, but I'd like to make an amendment that I want to see where the cuts are coming from. If we're voting on a 1.0, a 1% increase, I want to know what, I feel like I don't know what I'm voting for. It's like black box, just 1%. Where is that coming from? How is that impacting everything else?
Megan's motion was very specific with the line items where the money is.
I said from salaries and/or purchase services.
Right.
And then I discussed the
Okay.
fact that over the last 4 years, those have consistently been over budgeted by 1.5 million.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's coming from those.
From those two, okay.
Those salary areas.
Right, so in Carol, I voted yes because I'm just worried, I'm concerned about the pink slip. And, you know, Jen confirmed that she wouldn't be able to move forward with it. So that is the reason that I think that's important, is that I have a concern about the budget. I mean, I'm sorry, the middle school schedule. And I think we need to have more, I'm just like, I think it's important that we have a conversation around.
Well,
Right.
it's a business meeting, you just can't carry a
Well, it's for
conversation on
everyone to
between
understand.
people at the table.
Right, I'm sharing it, it's not whispering.
Okay.
But I want to kind of ask, I think the implicit understanding for most of us is that we don't want a pink slip. And we are going along with the idea that what Jen has kind of implicitly assured us, that there will not likely be a pink slip. That's the reason. So I agree with you, Donna, that I was not going to go for the pink slip, but I am trusting the fact that she has been willing to say it in so many different ways to us that there is unlikely to be a pink slip. And again, I know I don't want to put words into her mouth, but that is the reason I'm also comfortable. And I agree with you, but I'm also taking a different stand.
Just a clarification. We don't micromanage the school district.
Yeah.
The superintendent's in charge of hiring and teachers and something. And we're not going to give her a direction to say, you can fire this teacher or you can hire that teacher. That's her job, that's what we hire her for. We've expressed our feelings that we don't want to see a teacher get a pink slip. But if it ultimately comes down that, okay, I have to do this to meet the budget, she's going to have to find a way to do it. And if it's a pink slip, it's a pink slip. I don't want to see that. I don't think anybody on the board wants to see it. But, you know, we've just directed her to do a certain thing on the line items of the budget, and she has to do it. And one of those line items was teacher salaries, the salary line item.
We've asked her to take 200,000 out of two line items that have had 1.5 surplus for the last 7 years. That's true.
That is exactly correct. But prior to that, they said the line item is built on these factors. And yes, we've seen that surplus in that particular line item over a period of time. But we're doing a budget now. We're not doing, and the state says we do an estimate based on factual information. History is to be included, certainly, but she has to, I mean, we're hiring a certain number of teachers. We know what they're making. All of those things go into this. So my choice would be, and I think all of you probably agree somewhat, I said, the superintendent will do what she understands the board would like them to do if it's possible. And if she, you know, that's the way we should do it. I would not approve a motion to direct her not to fire anyone. Jen?
Am I allowed to make a motion for an amendment now, or do we have to vote first?
The motion is in play. If you have an amendment that you would like to make that affects the motion, yes, that's in order.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we have an amendment that cuts the difference at 1.2 and specifically asks that those reductions come from risk, not from a specific loss of a teacher. Taking a bit more risk.
Is there a second to that motion, amendment? Second to that?
I'll second.
Second over here. Okay, so we have an amendment.
Write it the right way, sorry.
Well, I have.
Hold on. We have an amendment to the motion, that, what, 1.2?
1.2.
1.2
Does
and,
not come directly from a loss of a full-time teacher and instead is
I had a
At your
1.2%
discretion.
reduction from risk, not
risk
FTE.
discretion.
Right. So the increase is now at 1.2. And it comes from risk rather than the specific line items? Okay. We have a motion, an amendment, and a second.
Okay, so Jen, how would that impact the middle school schedule, what Jennifer has amended the motion to be?
So if we're looking at a risk area, that's not gonna be the salary accounts. So I don't think that necessarily changes proposed teachers. Again, our risk, I mean, and I'm gonna defer to Terry eventually on this, but the contingency lines, which I don't remember where they live in the budget, are the place where we try to put in some factor in case we have something unexpected. So that may be the type of line that would be impacted. But to me, salaries, which really are people, and we have headcounts and know exactly what they make. If that's not coming from there, then it's not gonna change the salary lines per se. It might change a little bit, like if you assume risk in substitutes or something like that, but positions, it wouldn't impact.
So you're saying that that would support and move forward with the middle school schedule that you presented?
Can you repeat that again a little?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's getting a little late. That would move forward with the middle school schedule that you presented?
Yes, we would not need to have combined classes. Yep.
Do we have a second, and this is?
Yeah, there was a second, Carol has a second.
I gotta tell you, the motion, I mean, I appreciate it in that, you know, it's a concession, but it's also a recognition. It's also, hey, look, you know what, we can do a little something about this surplus. We can pay attention to it, and you know what, I think we can take a little bit out of the surplus without really hurting where we really want to be as a school. I'm good with that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate at least there being, you know, a recognition of the conversation amongst people. We have different opinions, we have different ideologies, but at least we're all kind of working together for we want the same result. And so I would go along with Jen's motion for a 1.2. I think I think that there's been a lot of, let's sit here, like you said, there's been a lot of hard work done on a budget that is probably the lowest number presented in forever, and it's almost risking becoming obstructionist to equivocate over what's essentially a $100,000 difference. So rather than be here all night, and again, but that's not to minimize your amendment, I would go along with it.
Okay, before I said I would not go below 1.35, but in line with what Christian has suggested, I would support your amendment, and I would hope that all of our board members could look at it and say, this is something I can support.
I think it's a compromise. I think, you know, an attempt at a compromise with everybody while still funding our full-time teachers. You know, there's still the opportunity to discuss the middle school schedule if that's what the board decides to do. But I think if we can find a way to have a compromise that still, you know, supports most of what you want and also says we're willing to take a little bit more risk, $100,000-ish, or a little more risk, I think feels like a compromise that hopefully we can all feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question. So what happened to the schedule? So now, we didn't table the schedule, and we didn't vote on the schedule. So the schedule now is
It's
back to where it
basically-
was.
It's basically the presentation we got tonight, and I think our discussion has spoken to what the board in general feels is important. I think the amendment also speaks to that same motion, and should the amendment run, I think it sends a message to the superintendent, this is kind of what we'd like to see in the middle schools. Is that a decent statement? Okay. Any further comments on the amendment? Okay,
In the spirit of compromise is fine with me. If we think $100,000 collectively to the three towns somehow signals to them that we are careful with their money. And that is the signal that the board wants to present. Like, Many, I think it's perfectly reasonable to me in the spirit of compromise to go ahead with that work.
So just to clarify, to Jennifer's point, the tabled motion, are we going to take that back up tonight or at another point in time?
We don't have
No, it wasn't tabled.
It wasn't tabled.
It wasn't, the tabling did not pass.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so now we're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on 1.2%?
No, I think I was just voting to even
1.2.
accept the amendment and then gonna vote on the amendment.
And then we'd have to vote on the, right, this is the amendment.
This is the vote to accept the amended
Right.
motion.
Okay.
Ms. Bradley?
Come back to me.
Ms. Calvin-Grove?
Yes.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yes.
Dr. Krunakran?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Abstain.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladile?
Yes.
Ms. Rebuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
Abstain.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
So for me, my issue is the school schedule. It's hard for me to support.
Abstain if you, it says you didn't,
I'll abstain.
yeah, send a statement too.
Oh, we had 9 yeses and 3 abstains.
Okay, so the amendment carries. We'll now be voting on the budget motion, which is now 1.2. Basically the same vote we just did.
Yes.
But you have to go through the procedure.
Ms. Bradley?
You're voting on the motion, which is 1.2, so do it.
Voting on 1.2 now.
1.2.
Yes. Abstain.
Ms. Cloud-Ingram?
Yes.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yes.
Dr. Krunakran?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Abstain.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladile?
Yes.
Ms. Rebuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
Abstain.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
9 yes, 3 abstain.
Okay, motion carries. Budget comes in at 1.2. An increase over this year's budget. We still have items on the agenda, everyone. There's a couple that we.
Yeah, I've taken mine. I feel bad. It came back.
We declare victory now.
There's a couple of items that I think we can go through quickly. Superintendent's report, you have anything in addition to what you wrote?
No, because this was just an enclosure. I sort of
Okay.
skipped. Remember the last meeting
Yep.
when we were virtual and I forgot it? So just an enclosure.
Chairman's report, I think I've spoken enough. ACES,
I don't have any.
nothing there. Ad hoc school start time, it's in a few minutes.
Yeah, apparently. Stay here long enough. Why not? Actually, I'm waiting for Carol and Jen to connect about transportation.
I will connect with you tomorrow.
And then we're going to set another meeting time.
Okay, thank you. Gabe?
Nothing.
Communications?
We will not have a meeting tomorrow. We are scheduled to meet with our local PTSO bodies over the next 6 weeks or so.
Okay. Curriculum?
Our next meeting is Wednesday, March 18th, when Mrs. Schlenk is back.
Very good. District Health and Safety?
2 weeks from tomorrow, March 25th.
Okay. District Technology, the monthly report is on page 10. Facilities is next on page 11. Any comments or questions?
We had a meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, regarding looking at middle school upgrades as how they could be put into a bond. Tomorrow, we have a meeting at AMSO, and we're going to be looking at the HVAC over there and a presentation about the PA system at the middle school.
All right. There was a question that the chair received about a feasibility study, which the board had discussed. Can you give some clarence about the feasibility
So
study?
the feasibility study was looking, do you want to,
I mean, they can add 240 square feet and then we'll be.
240 feet to Bethany?
Yes, to Bethany.
And nothing to
Orange,
nothing to Orange.
And anything over that, we wouldn't be at the full reimbursement from the state. So, I mean, at some point, the facilities committee, if they want to go forward with the renovations for the library media center, will have to decide if 240 square feet is worth it.
Well, that's just part of it. So the renovation would be one thing, but it would be looking at, do we want to add a 240 square foot room?
Office.
Okay. So the feasibility study came out to be not feasible.
Correct. Accurate.
Finance, presentation discussion of fourth quarter 2025 executive summary review of the Amity Pension Fund, sick and severance account, and OPEB OPEB trust, page 13 of the.
In short, we're on target for all of our funds.
That was a good report. Discussion of monthly financial statements, page 40, a special education update.
I will just give you the highlight that our utilities right now are trending quite a bit over budget. Electricity, maybe 250,000 over budget by the end of the year, and natural gas maybe 57,000, and snow removal 70,000 over budget.
Okay.
Why is that? No surprise.
Any questions? No questions? Good. We have the approved transfers under 3,000. Any questions on that? And next we go to discussion and possible action on budget transfers over 3,000, which is on page 75. And we do have a vote that we're going to be taking, I believe.
Three transfers there, also special ed to transfer within their own area. Whether it's salaries from line from a vacancy that we're hiring an outside professional, for homebound tutoring or for teaching staff, and then for literacy and finance approval. All three is one motion.
All right. So we did all three?
Yeah, all three.
Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, oh, you guys are quick. Didn't even have time to read it.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. So we have a motion to approve all three of the special education transferred as listed. All right, any comments? Can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Cloud Ingram?
Yes.
Ms. Sheckey?
Yes.
Dr. Kroonkaran?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Ola DeLay?
Yes.
Ms. Rabuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Personnel, that's on page 77. Any questions on that? All right, we have new business and announcement. I'll do a little bit of an announcement. The budget we passed was probably one that none of us liked. And yet we were able to come together after some blood was spilled on everybody's part. And we could walk out of here saying we passed a bipartisan budget. We take it back to our towns and say, listen, this was not a political event, it was a concern for the funding of the school district. And in retrospect, we did a good job of coming together. And that's something I wrote in my email last week, if we can find a way to do that. I think we did, and I think we can walk out of here with our heads held high and knowing that we did a good job. And now we just have to lay the problems of getting it fixed on our administration. Okay? All right. Regular meeting agenda due on March 27th. And with that, it is 9:48. Is there any objection to motion to adjourn at 9:48? Any objection? We are adjourned at 9:48 without objection.
No, it's not in.
Happening, even if it was early.
I just wanted to see.
Hey, Megan,